Hundreds of years ago, 3 wizards helped with the founding empire of Reinhold. The emperor awarded them the titles of Duchy of Sagen, Duchy of Cadrian, and the Duchy of Yttri. To this day, these 3 duchies still desperately wish for the wizard's lineage. Little Helga of Yttri ran off to see her parents, trying to tell them that she could use magic too, just like in the story. However, her young heart broke when she found out that she was not the real daughter. She has this old nanny who is always proud of her and even defends her in front of her mother. But all her mother thinks of is that she's a fake and that there's nothing remarkable about her at all. Poor little Helga has to resist her urge to cry because her mom will be more disappointed if she does so. This time, she punishes her by locking her up in the attic for making a mistake during the ball where she danced with the crown prince. Helga begs for forgiveness, but even her nanny can't do anything. Then, news comes in that the real daughter by the name of Hyllian has been found. Helga grits her teeth in anger, begging her not to come back. Suddenly, her nanny calls her from outside and stays the whole night as she sings her a song so she won't be scared anymore. After some time, she realizes that her nanny is no longer responding to her. She keeps banging at the door for anyone to answer, but suddenly, she creates a strong magic to open the door. In front of her lies her lifeless nanny. She begs her to wake up, but there's nothing more she can do. She then spots a bracelet that her nanny promised to give her when she'll be released from the attic. Imagine how traumatizing this can be to a child. Ever since then, her world has collapsed over and over again. At the age of 16, she had grown up to be a composed and elegant lady, just as her mother had hoped her to be. A half-breed noble who inherited the blood of a lowly maid, a fake and all the while perfectly hiding her true self. She keeps begging God not to let the real daughter in, but Holy God has refused to grant her earnest wish. Helga Yttri is the pride of the perfect Yttri family, standing out in every area that even the high society only has words of praise for her, and yet within the duchy, she remains a lowly, illegitimate child. Her mother instructs Helga to behave herself as she brings Hyllian over for dinner, emphasizing how they should show her how harmonious their family is, just like it has always been. Harmonious? What a joke! Helga has no other choice but to obey. When her mother leaves, she grits her teeth in frustration and anger. During dinner, her mother seems like a different person in front of Hyllian, pretending all good to Helga. As for Helga, just seeing Hyllian makes her sick because they look too similar. The only difference is that, unlike her, Hyllian knows how to put a bright and beautiful smile to the point that it annoys her. However, Helga knows that it is better to pretend to be good to her. Hyllian has been leading a happy life since her mother has always been by her side. When she asks if Helga has been happy too, her mother's fierce eyes meet Helga's. Happy? Of course, extremely happy. Shortly after, Helga is in the garden, wondering why Hyllian deserves to be loved more than her. Suddenly, Hyllian appears behind her and grabs her hand because she wants to give her a brooch. However, Helga angrily withdraws her hand, holding her wrist where her nanny's bracelet is as if she's protecting her life. Still, she has to compose herself and calmly apologizes for startling Hyllian. She then asks for the brooch and further apologizes for stealing Hyllian's position, but the latter doesn't mind because after all, she has known about her identity all along. After hearing how Hyllian's been showered with love as her real mother's way of being sorry for swapping them, Helga is even more frustrated that her real mother, the servant who raised Hyllian, isn't even sorry for leaving her in the duchy. Hyllian obviously has a good upbringing, to the point of being an eyesore. Still, she manages to treat her well because she wants Hyllian to adore her even more and more in the upcoming days, and use it to her advantage. Days later, her servants who used to be responsible for her are gone, leaving only one. She realizes that her mother really means to throw her away. As she's about to knock on the Duke's office, she overhears that her mother proposes that she will switch their names and that Helga must find her own place. Her place? Where else is her place if not in the duchy? Still, she still manages to compose herself when she enters the office. Her mother then informs her of the return of her fiancé, with great triumph over the naval battle. Rohan Aslan Reinhold, the crown prince, whom they refer to as the maverick of the imperial family. Although they've been engaged since childhood, she hasn't seen him for years. That time, Rohan was 4 years older than her. Over the past 4 years, he has proved his worth on the battlefield to the point that the signature white cape of the Navy forces turns red from bloodstains, earning the nickname Man-Eating Shark or Devilish Killer. Her mother then wants to hasten their marriage, but she will marry him as Hyllian, emphasizing that it is only natural for her to return the name of Helga to its original owner. Amongst the rumors about Rohan, none speak or paint him through the lens of a human. There is no way her mother would want to send Hyllian off to a man like that. That's why her mother is saving her position as the future empress. Her mother is willing to strip her of her name and everything she accomplished so far to Hyllian. Of course, she agrees obediently. She will proceed with the engagement under the name Hyllian, and she will disappear without a trace. Then, on the wedding day, her mother will have no choice but to uphold the marriage with Hyllian as she blames and resents her for losing her real daughter. Along with the name Helga, she will completely remove herself from their world so that her mother won't dare to change the owner of that name as she wishes. She will definitely make her mother feel it to her bones. She will watch as Hyllian, who will be left alone, crumbles down in ruins just like she once did. This is the most perfect revenge she can do right now. During a tea party with Delight Kadrian, the youngest daughter of the Duchy of Kadrian, Helga shares how lovely of a child Hyllian is, even though she secretly wants to ruin her. Delight is clearly on Helga's side, so she proposes an idea to invite Hyllian to her birthday banquet, because the high society will surely compare the two like a peacock and a sparrow. After all, Helga has a lot of successful businesses, making her the most promising lady in the empire. This time, Helga wants to raise suspicions about them so they will keep on talking about how different the two of them are, so that Hyllian can feel for herself how much she can't replace Helga. Days later, Helga received a letter from Rohan. She then remembers their promise years ago that he will definitely come back and that she will not forget about him. As promised, she didn't forget him, but will he still remember her too? That same day, Rohan and his mother, the Empress, visit the Duchy of Yttri without her parents knowing. Her mother thinks that the Crown Prince will not notice, so she proceeds with the plan of introducing Helga as Hyllian. Helga then introduces herself brightly, but the look on Rohan's face is different. And the way he smirks, Helga can't tell whether he did that because he recognizes her or was simply meant as a friendly greeting towards Hyllian. Suddenly, Rohan asks if she has something to tell him. Oh my, this is so intense. Helga quickly apologizes for her rudeness since they've only just met, but his thoughts are what's more important. What does he say about a marriage with Hyllian, Helga, instead? Reaching the rank of swordmaster at the age of 15, Rohan is an accomplished and brilliant swordsman who has triumphed over many battlefields. Simply put, he's a born ruler. And so it's settled that he will marry Hyllian, Helga. Rohan then excuses himself first, asking Helga to come along. In the hallway, he notices that she keeps clenching her fists, but Helga manages to cover up her personal feelings. Suddenly, Rohan shows her his hand full of scars. He thought he had nothing to worry about if it were her, but Helga still pushes the idea that this is their first time meeting. Rohan tries to figure her out, but still, she doesn't reveal her true self. Rohan's lips curve a little, saying that she's interesting. That smile. When she was young, she used to fear that very smile of his that seemed to know everything. She fears he might expose all of the weaknesses from deep within her heart. But no, even if Rohan recognizes her or interferes with her plan to disappear, she can still protect herself with her power. The very much obsessed trait that the 4 prestigious ducal houses desire, the blood of a wizard. What kind of expression will everyone make once they figure out that she is whom they seek? Magic is the only power she can use to protect herself and to make it out of the hell she's going through. That night, Mother decides to hide Hyllian's face until she's ready. She should better hurry and teach her everything because eventually, Hyllian will be the one who joins the imperial family. However, her mother orders her to teach Hyllian everything she learned as her way of paying back all her mother had spent on her. This time, she's able to talk back, asking if she's the one who has no shame when she works hard to be recognized, only to be taken away by someone else with no effort. However, she realizes that she should not be swallowed up by her personal feelings and agrees to what her mother said, all for the sake of her perfect revenge. For days, Helga keeps taking classes with Hyllian. Amongst the subjects, Hyllian is good at physical activities such as horseback riding rather than in academics. Helga finds it funny that her mother plans on turning someone this far from nobility as an exact copy of her. That's right, Hyllian is so not Helga-coded. In town, the Duchess, Hyllian, and Helga are the hot topics of the people, precisely as Helga has expected. However, her mother is rather agitated by this sudden invitation from Delight when Hyllian isn't ready for social gatherings yet. Her mother then tries to hurt her, asking how Helga dares to put them in shame. Helga then reminds her mother of her actions because there are lots of eyes watching. Her mother then pushes her a little and pretends to act out on reflex. Her mother used to be a knight a long time ago. Perhaps it makes sense why Hyllian is better at using her body than her brain. Her mother then orders her to let Hyllian learn swordsmanship if she sees fit. Before, Helga wanted to be more like her mother, but she didn't even receive her support, yet Hyllian can easily get everything merely because she's the real daughter. Since Hyllian gets to have what Helga desires the most, a motherly love, she has to lose something else too. This cold and intimidating look on Helga's face proves that in the birthday banquet, everyone will be suspicious of Hyllian later on when she takes her place and impersonates her. Unbeknownst to Helga, a man who's sipping coffee is observing her from a distance. He then orders a boy to deliver a letter to Helga. When Helga receives it, it says that it'll be too obvious if she keeps on with that bored look on her face, and further asks if she'd rather spend time with him instead. By the name of Aslan, she knows who it's from. Looking over at the blonde man with cold turquoise eyes, she suspects that he used a magic tool to disguise himself. Helga then informs her mother that she has a guest to attend to. Before leaving, she sees how her mother holds Hyllian's hand, which infuriates her even more. When she reconnects with Rohan, he then gives her a dessert made from fruit. She knows that her mom won't allow her to eat it, afraid that Helga will put on some weight. However, Aslan encourages her to give it a try in order to help boost her mood. Seeing her happy expression as she tastes the dessert, Rohan knows that she only makes a boring expression when the Duchess is around. Also, he remembers how her palm was full of scars from clenching her fists, but now, it's even more severe. The scars on her palms and her character haven't changed a bit. Who's the one getting deceived after all? Rohan knows! When he asks her about Hyllian, she realizes that everything she used to have will now be hers. Noticing how her mood suddenly drops, Rohan hands her a present before leaving, saying that whenever she's down, she should just eat it to feel better. But he still hopes that she won't resort to the box to lighten her mood. It's just another way of saying that he hopes she won't be sad or hurt anymore. So low-key, yet so romantic. As he expected, a smiling face still suits her better. Rohan is the definition of a man who knows his girl very well. When he leaves, she then uses her magic to enter the magical path to Utopia. Everything relating to magic is reserved here for sale, and for Helga, this is the most relaxing place where she can freely enjoy herself. She then borrows a book about the lost magic as part of her plan. Oh, and by the way, she almost forgot about the candies. It's so sweet that she can't even swallow it properly, but it isn't bad at all. The Duchess can't help but get frustrated that there's no dress that suits Hyllian well. Well, it doesn't matter to her. After all, Hyllian's strained expression is what matters most. Though Hyllian resembles Helga, she can tell that there's a big difference between them, no matter how hard she tries to hide their true identities. When Helga gets back to the dressing store, Delight is already waiting inside. It turns out that she needs a new dress. Helga then notices that she has a new servant. Delight has this habit of treating a servant poorly. If she knows that Helga is the daughter of a servant, then she will surely turn her back on her. Suddenly, Hyllian comes in, so Helga has to make a move that will push Delight to say out loud how different they are. Indeed, Delight insists that they are completely different, to which Helga agrees. However, the Duchess hears her saying that, so her mother asks for her presents. The Duchess notices the gloves that Helga is wearing. Helga doesn't want Rohan to notice the scars, so she brought them earlier. Too late, Helga. Never underestimate your fiancé. Then, Hyllian approaches her, saying that all the dresses are uncomfortable. Of course, there's no way Hyllian can get accustomed to all the things Helga learned for years. Still, she wants her mother to put more faith in Hyllian, so the suffering she'll have to endure will be even worse than hers. So, Helga proceeds to be good to Hyllian and even compliments her. For a moment, Hyllian is speechless, but then she lets out a bright smile and expresses her gratitude for Helga. But no big deal. Conversely, Helga should be the one to thank her for pointing out and showing everyone how different they are. The day of the long-awaited birthday party for Delight has arrived. As both ladies enter the party, people can't even distinguish Helga from Hyllian because they both look alike. Helga's clenching her fists again. How can people not know who she is? Well, except for Delight. Suddenly, Delight fetches Helga to eat, leaving Hyllian behind. Still, she thinks that Helga is really cool in every way. It is Hyllian's first time showing up to a party, so she still feels awkward without anyone to talk to. Unlike Helga, who seems very popular and influential among the nobles. Suddenly, someone approaches her. People have high expectations of her because of what reputation Helga has built throughout the years. They also aren't hesitant to talk to Hyllian about Helga's recent status. Thanks to Helga's influence, Hyllian is able to get along quickly. Suddenly, one of the noble ladies asks her about the engagement with the crown prince. Of course, Hyllian doesn't know anything about it, but if she denies it, all those eyes will be filled with hostility. At this moment, she realizes what her mother is secretly doing, but she can't put pressure on Helga with such rumors, so she just tells them that she simply followed Helga's will. But one thing's not clear. Being engaged to the crown prince? What does this mean? Not you, Hyllian. Don't even try to think of taking Rohan away from Helga, or we will burn the whole empire with you at the center of it. Kidding. In Delight's room, Helga presents her with a precious gift for her birthday, a magic scepter that Kadrian's ancestor used in the past. Say Helga Yttri. Among the 3 wizards, Kadrian was treated the worst because she lost her magic scepter. So rather than a gift just for Delight, it's more accurate to say that it is a gift for the entire Kadrian family. This will end Kadrian being treated the worst among the 3 dukes. Delight looks happy to have it. She clearly owes Helga a favor for this, so someday, when it's Helga's time to ask for help, she must help her. Suddenly, someone sends her a note, stating that he came to sell a new candy. Delight is so curious about what's making Helga smile, but Rohan's return is still a secret to the Empire, so she isn't letting her know about it. Meanwhile, Rohan overhears Hyllian and the other noble ladies talking about their engagement. He also realizes that Hyllian doesn't know about the Duchess's plan at all. The way the Duchess treats Helga, it's always a shallow love. Suddenly, Helga comes out to the balcony where Rohan is already waiting, saying that there's still a lot of candy left. He's glad to know that and asks for her hand. He then takes off her gloves and replaces them with a new pair as his gift to her. Indeed, Helga agrees that it is much prettier. Before Rohan leaves, he then tells her to let him know whenever she needs more candies. Isn't this his way of monitoring her? Like, if she asks for more candies, meaning she's been so sad and hurt all along? He is really so low-kingly romantic. Meanwhile, Hyllian comes home first and faces her mother. Hyllian is so surprised to know the truth that she doesn't want that. She doesn't want to replace Helga. It doesn't make sense to her. Helga also returns to the mansion after hearing the news, but she didn't expect to see Hyllian crying because of her mother's decision. Why is she crying? Whoever sees it will misunderstand that she's crying for Helga's behalf. Actually, Helga's tired, but she still manages to convince Hyllian into becoming her by telling a blatant lie. That she is in love with the crown prince, so Hyllian must become Helga for her. Of course, Hyllian, being so naive, agrees to it, but it only annoys Helga. It's annoying how she has to appease the perpetrator and her sister when she's the victim all along. Days later, it's the day that the newspaper officially announced Rohan's return. Helga's servant, Sienna, made the mistake of letting Helga know that she can read. It is forbidden for servants to know how to read in order to avoid causing trouble for the noble families. Helga confronts her about informing the Duchess of all of the letters and invitations that she received. However, Sienna proves her loyalty to her. 12 years ago, when Helga escaped the Duke's house and wandered around the city, she met a scruffy little child with a burn mark on her forehead who tried to steal her money in order to save her mother from an illness. Helga believes her now. She has a great servant. In Sienna's mind, Helga is the most beautiful when she smiles. Why does the Duchess hate such beauty? On a sunny day, Hyllian tells Helga that she has a letter from someone. It's from Rohan, saying that he wants to meet his fiancée, Hyllian. It kinda sucks that Helga has to put up with this because of her mother, and Hyllian doesn't know that it's the real reason. The moment Helga looks at Hyllian, an awe expression is visible on her face. She still can't believe that Helga is in love with the crown prince. She really is going to see him. For Hyllian, there's really nothing more beautiful than love. Hyllian looks at Helga with a face full of determination, saying that she will do her best to be a great Helga. Helga thinks that Hyllian's obliviousness to her current situation pisses her off. As Helga's about to ride to the carriage to meet Rohan, her mother stops her and whispers that if she ever makes a scene, she will be held responsible for it. Such a cruel mother who barely thinks about her daughter's feelings. When Helga arrives at the meeting place, Rohan is already there. Rohan talks about moments that happened with Helga before, but then she acts innocent as if she doesn't know it and plays her part bearing in mind that she is Hyllian at the moment. All of a sudden, Rohan asks her a favor to ask Helga how it feels that the guy she's waiting for 4 years is bound to marry her sister, Hyllian. Helga barely maintains her composure as she's clenching her fists out of anger. How does it feel? She feels betrayed, as if she's a child who had her box of candies taken away. Now that Rohan's back after 4 years of being away, all he wants to say is sorry for leaving Helga, and hearing that touches her heart. The people who need to apologize haven't even bothered, but the prince apologizes for not being by her side. However, for Rohan, there is something more important that he has to do. He stands up and kneels in front of Helga. He then pulls her hands. Then Helga remembers that she's wearing the gloves that Rohan gave her. Panic starts to resurface. Should she act as if she doesn't know anything, or as if she knows everything? Rohan removes her gloves as he examines her hands. They look even more painful than before, and asks her if he should ask someone to send some medicine. Helga starts to panic even more. If her plan fails, she will surely be punished. Seeing the worry and panic on Helga's face, Rohan's aura starts to darken as he seriously faces Helga, asking what the duchy has done to her. He knows! Rohan feels guilty as he looks at Helga's hands. He shouldn't have left her. He looks at her intently, asking what he should do for her. However, Helga, not wanting to fail, tries to make excuses. But Rohan isn't dumb enough to believe it. He proceeds to examine her hands even more, and he notices the nail marks on them. He asks her about it, but that mere question only reminds her of her childhood. Throwback. Helga's childhood was a mess. Her mother puts a lot of pressure on her to be a true Yttri. Back then, she remembers the very first time she's locked in the attic. She wasn't allowed to get out until she stopped crying. She clenched her hands while crying her heart out, leaving nail marks behind. The moment she calmed down, her nanny arrived. She hugged her tightly and asked her to tell her mom that she had stopped crying and could finally go to the crown prince's party. How could they leave a child alone in the dark? At the party, people came up to her to talk since they adored her so much. The moment she greets Rohan, he could already tell that she'd been crying. Helga tried to lie about it, but Rohan knows her well. He asked her to go out for a walk with him. He then asked her why she cried, but Helga was really determined to lie. But Rohan wasn't buying those excuses. He grabbed her hand and asked her why she always had those nail marks whenever he saw her. Seeing her cry and hurt her hands made it hard to leave her behind. Aww, young love. It turns out that Rohan has to leave to go to the battlefield. Helga begged him not to go, but then he had duties as a crown prince. Thinking of it right now makes Helga realize how calm Rohan was back then. Rohan, be her knight in shining armor, please. Looking at Helga's situation, Rohan desperately asks her what he can do for her. My gosh, he's so dreamy. He's willing to do anything for her. But all Helga wants is to escape from her mother's shadow, something that she can't ask from him, so she tells him that he should do nothing. From that day, Rohan doesn't mention her identity again, and she's busy with her own work. She's currently in her mother's room, telling her that the airship's test run was successful and asking her if she can go out already, as Helga. Think about it. Isn't it ridiculous to ask permission to go out using your name? Helga goes out to meet with Sherry, the airship inventor. Sherry greets her with a huge smile as she compliments her about the airship. But Helga compliments her back for the idea of how to make the airship fly. With a gullible, happy expression, Sherry thanks her back, telling her that she'll be working harder. Future airships will be named after the inventor Sherry, and one of the airships will be handed to Helga. Among the first airships, it will be a great honor for Yttri when one is named Helga. While watching the airships, she thinks about her situation. She wonders how they will think if the real Helga disappears, how she will change the story, how she will ruin their life just like they ruin hers. As they are looking at the airship, Sherry thanks Helga for investing a huge capital in the project. And for that, Sherry said that the most important part of the airship needs a new name. Sherry suggests naming it Helga's Heart, which really touches Helga. While Helga's mother is doing her best to steal her name, there's someone who remembers her name and engraves it. It turns out that it's the idea of everyone who participates in cultivating the project. Sherry said that just like the heart of Helga, the airship would be warm and affectionate. Sherry's the first person to tell her that. She is so sweet. It's the morning 3 days before the engagement. After coming back from the laboratory, Helga hasn't been allowed to go out and is ordered to stay with Hyllian. Seeing Hyllian being carefree, she doesn't know what to do. It feels like she became a puppy chasing a child who grew up without education. While still in the garden, Hyllian and Helga open up the topic of the engagement. Hyllian wants to make a bouquet of flowers for Helga. That's why she's studying flower design booklets behind their mother's back. She is so pure. I hope she doesn't turn evil. Hyllian proceeds to ask Helga's permission if she can do it for her. Shock is visible on Helga's face, but suddenly vanishes as she tells Hyllian to just do it, since it will also be a role model for high society. In her mother's room, Helga arrives only to see her mother looking furious and pressured. The moment her mother sees her, she then tells her that the crown prince wants to see his fiancée. Her mother warns her to be careful about what she'll say. But before she can even step out of the room, her mother asks her if she has finally realized her position, since she seems to be better lately. However, Helga only laughs, telling her mother that Hyllian, her real daughter, seems to be the one who doesn't know her position. Helga also asks her if she really thinks that Hyllian can lead the Duke family, making her mother furious. In the end, Helga smiles at her, telling her that she knows her position well. She knows what she can do and how far she can do it. She then turns around and walks out. Such a boss! We should aspire to have the same level of sass. The next day, Helga arrives at the place where Rohan wants to meet her. It's the most romantic place in town, a place where any noble lady dreams of getting proposed to. The moment she goes down the carriage, Rohan greets her with a smile as he asks her how she's been and if she had already had her breakfast. He is so caring. Since you plan on leaving him, Helga, can I have him instead? Anyway, they proceed to enter the restaurant. Rohan offers Helga a seat and asks her how her day is when suddenly he kneels in front of her and gently grabs her hand. He's proposing. He's supposed to propose at her coming-of-age ceremony, but he feels the need to propose earlier. Rohan then tells her that it's not just that he wants to marry her, he also wants her to give him a chance to protect her. Finally, there's someone ready to protect her, and someone this handsome too. So lucky. Rohan then grabs a ring and slides it on her finger. It's not the official engagement ring since it's for the engagement ceremony. It just represents the promise that he'll protect her. Helga can only apologize, but Rohan is too considerate about it and tells her not to apologize since he doesn't want to make her tired. After that, Rohan isn't forcing her to answer any more questions. She then comes back to the castle right after and looks at the ring he gave her until she falls asleep. Rohan is so understanding towards her. The day before the engagement, Rohan sends an ivory dress, calm and elegant pearls rather than gorgeous ornaments, and shoes with low heels that were specially made at the crown prince's request. Seeing all of this proves that Rohan knows her very well. Having a man like him must be so exhilarating. Where can I find someone like him? While Helga's watching her reflection in the mirror, her mother suddenly barges into her room. Her mother suddenly goes to her and holds her hand, which surprises her. In her mother's mind, Hyllian doesn't get any better at acting like Helga, and she will still need Helga even after the engagement. As her mother snaps back to reality, she acts kindly towards Helga and asks her to sleep early since the engagement is tomorrow. How very strange. Why is this witch acting this way? All of those were new to her. It was the first time that she entered her room and held her hands. She's only kind when she needs her help. As she lays in bed with tears in her eyes, she realizes that despite everything, she has always loved her mother. The engagement day arrives, and Rohan looks dashing in his suit, while Helga looks beautiful in her ivory dress. The weather is nice that day, but will something nice happen? The moment they enter the venue, a lot of people are cheering for them. While walking, Helga spots her mother and father together with Hyllian. Her parents don't even look happy while Hyllian is looking at her with joy. The moment they finish sliding rings onto each other's fingers, Rohan carefully touched Helga's face with eyes full of love. He slowly moves his face towards her until their lips touch. It finally happened, guys! Their first kiss! OMG! Our lovebirds look so good together. After the ceremony, Helga and Rohan are walking outside when Rohan tells her that during the event, he was excited and trembling while Helga was so calm. So he apologizes in advance for what he is about to do. He kisses her forehead before going on his way home, leaving Helga dumbfounded. Yes, my Rohan boy! So sneaky. Now that she's alone, the time has come. Helga meets Sienna, who's carrying the things that Helga asked. It's a magic bag she bought on Utopia Street. With expansion magic, everything she needs is inside. Right there and then, they bid their goodbyes to each other. Helga's planning to get away and disappear from her complicated and painful life, She wants to experience happiness, and by the time she can finally experience it, she'll be able to visit her old nanny, the one who made her feel loved as a child. She wants to face her tomb and tell her that she's finally happy. That's a promise she keeps to herself. She will never go back. When Rohan arrives in the palace, he learns the horrible truth that Hyllian, aka Helga, is missing. A shocked expression appears on his face. It seems like a bucket of cold water splashes on him. After so much happiness, chaos has followed. Poor Rohan. Meanwhile, Helga is in Silurian, the second largest city in the empire. She decides to go there since, unlike the capital, it's near the sea. Normally, it would take a month for people to go there by horseback riding, but since she learned the teleportation magic, it only took her 1 day to arrive. The duchy is so far away that she can no longer see or feel it. She realizes that she can finally live. By strolling around, she begins to like the place even more since the stores are open even late at night. Live your life, girl, away from those cruel people. She proceeds to go to a shop to buy comfortable clothes to wear, but the moment the lady in the shop looks at her, her eyes begin scanning Helga. Helga knows that it will happen. In a city where commerce has developed, the criterion for judging a person is not noble status or outstanding honor. It's money. That is one of the reasons why Helga came there, because if you have money, you can have everything. And with that, she hands a bag full of gold to the lady. The lady immediately accompanies her to look for dresses that will suit her the most. Meanwhile, Rohan is furious and devastated that they haven't found Helga yet. All the airships that are tested that day are also tracked. There's no trace of Helga, and it's starting to drive him crazy. Don't worry, Helga's just trying to find happiness. But without you. No, poor Rohan. Helga always hides her true feelings, no matter how her family treats her. Ever since they're young, Rohan always notices how cruel they treat Helga. And from then, he decides to save Helga. After the wedding, he thinks that he can save Helga from the Yttri, but then she's gone. His chest hurts as if it's going to tear. He's really gonna be crazy. He can't wait to find her. However, he has a terrible thought of Helga not returning at all. At the Yttri's palace, the Duchess and Duke are too stressed out because of Helga. They're afraid that the potential connections will vanish because of it. The Duchess can't even let her daughter Hyllian pretend to be Helga anymore, since she thinks that the Crown Prince is too cold-hearted. This makes her even more furious as she blames Helga more for what's happening. Helga wouldn't have left if you guys were kind to her. To cover up what happened, the Duchess writes a letter to the Crown Prince, stating that his fiancée is under the protection of Yttri since she's resting because she isn't feeling well. She also asks the servants to get the papers in Helga's room, and take that as an opportunity to change all of Helga's habits. Hyllian enters her mom's room. In her head, thoughts have been circulating, so she asks her mom if her sister Helga has been kidnapped. But then her mom's aura turns scary and asks the servants to go out. However, it changes again to a much softer aura the moment it's only her and Hyllian in the room. Hyllian runs towards her mom and hugs her as her mom comforts her, saying that Helga will be back soon. The Duchess then asks for Hyllian's cooperation to not say anything about Helga's disappearance and just act as if nothing happened, promising Hyllian with Helga's immediate return. Hyllian agrees to do her best to follow it and not to be a burden to anyone. Poor Hyllian, she's really so kind towards anyone. At Rohan's castle, a servant goes to him telling him that there's a letter for him. The moment he reads the letter, he knows that it's all just a lie and he won't be buying any of that. Our prince is not easily fooled. The morning comes. Helga wakes up and all she can hear is the sound of the sea outside the window. There's no more mother scolding her in the morning, no trembling voices that are scared to be seen by the Duke. She loves the silence that she's experiencing right now, and for the first time in her life, she thinks she's seeing a little bit of happiness now. You deserve that pure happiness, Helga. Back in the Yttri's palace, the Duchess is extremely angry. She assumes that Helga will be back soon, but it seems like she won't be. She even hired people to secretly look for Helga, but there's no news. And even those who visited the duchy for business were looking only for Helga. For the sake of the duchy that Hyllian will rule in the future, the Duchess has to finish Helga's unfinished business just like the airship. As the servants notice how little the Duchess cares for Helga, they can actually understand why she left. In the middle of the Duchess's business, Hyllian's professor enters the room and reports Hyllian's status in the class. Apparently, Hyllian is not doing well in academics at all. The Duchess is dumbfounded. She holds on to what the professor said before to make Hyllian a perfect lady within the promised time. But that's unreasonable. It's impossible. To be able to get what she wants, she forced the professor to teach her daughter as much as she could, or else. Such a cruel woman. Why can't you just believe that Hyllian will never be Helga? In Rohan's palace, he is still devastated by Helga's disappearance, questioning how can Helga leave him like that. He did his best so he could finally protect her, including planning to hasten the engagement ceremony. But it seems like she has a different dream for herself. He's starting to get scared. He keeps on having bad thoughts about what might have happened to her. To her who lived all her life as a noble, she will have to understand everything. Oh, he truly loves her. It's rare to find someone like him. Helga exits the bank with money. She proceeds to go to a store in which by the moment she enters, a man with white-colored hair seems surprised. It's been a while since a guest visited the store, so the man isn't really sure that she'll find what she's looking for. However, Helga tells him that she's not going to buy stuff. She's going to buy the whole store. Ugh, to be rich like her, I want to be able to buy an entire store without batting an eyelash too. They sit down and talk. The owner frankly tells Helga that if she's planning to make a profit by buying his store, she should just give up. Before they even continue talking, the man introduces himself as Zion Collins, and she introduces herself as Hyllian. Zion explains that the store can't be bought cheaply since everything in the store is expensive. Zion looks at her feeling devastated since, in all honesty, he really wants to sell the store, but it can't be sold cheaply, and no one buys a cheap-looking store that's so expensive. All of a sudden, Helga hands him a bag full of money. The moment she opens it, it's full of gold coins which are more than enough to buy the store. However, there are still some terms and conditions. She hands over another bag of money as she clicks her finger, and all of a sudden, every corner of the store changes. The whole place suddenly looks as good as new. All Helga asks for Zion is to manage the store with her. She's starting to heal, guys. Getting Solemio along with Zion's services was a good deal. This is the first time that Helga has purchased something simply because she wants to. She tells Zion to clean up the place. While he is sweeping the place, Zion is lamenting his lost chance of living as a simple farmer once the shop is sold. Unfortunately, he is blinded by money and gives up on his precious dream. Meanwhile, Helga recalls that Solemio is one of the reasons why she chose to move to Solarian. She is aware of its true value because even if it's on the brink of bankruptcy, this was established by Solemio Seijin, rumored to have been born with the most powerful magic. Once the seemingly old magical tools in the shop are infused with magic, they will be worth millions. She feels great that she has finally gotten her shop. She looks at Zion and wonders if he's even aware that he has the Seijin bloodline. She also thinks about how people in the capital are chasing empty airships while she is settling down in an antique shop for a fresh start. Finally, she can find peace and happiness. Meanwhile, Rohan thinks about how he didn't actually really know Helga. Now he needs to figure out why she would give away all her accomplishments to her sister. He remembers that the Hyllian, played by Helga, is naive and smart. He wonders if the real Hyllian is like that. If so, he can discover more about the situation from her. He then sends a letter to the Duke of Yttri, instructing the servant that the Duchess should be unaware of it. He wants to meet his fiancée immediately. In the Yttri residence, the Duke receives a letter and is enraged about the situation. He is quick to blame Helga for what's happening. Typical. He really is the father of the year. But then he thinks that this is actually good. The one who should occupy the position of crown princess is Hyllian. He orders the servant to send a reply to the imperial palace and to call for his daughter. He wants to tell her the good news. Hyllian comes to her father and she is told that he wants to talk about Helga. She instantly perks up upon hearing her sister's name. She frantically asks if they have finally found her. To her dismay, he only wants to talk about the invitation from the crown prince to meet his fiancée. She can't believe that her father wants her to replace Helga as the crown prince's fiancée rather than looking for her sister. She thinks about how Helga could have possibly lived in a place like this. Everyone is like puppets without emotions. Did Helga really answer her truthfully when she asked if she was happy? She tells the Duke that they just have to wait for Helga to return by telling the imperial family the truth. However, her father remarks that they will just find another crown princess if they wait. This guy is really more worried about their position than his missing daughter. How despicable. Hyllian becomes worried due to her father's words. Helga has told her that she loves the crown prince, and if she finds out that the prince has married another, then she would be devastated. Hyllian is so kind but naive at the same time. She agrees to meet with the prince because she wants to protect Helga's position. When the Duchess finds out about this, she is enraged. How dare her husband send her only daughter to hell? She confronts the Duke, calling him insane for wanting Hyllian to marry the prince. The Duke can only rub his forehead out of exhaustion as he tells his wife that the crown prince has requested it. He explains that the Imperials will not listen to their excuse for much longer. The Duchess is seething as she writes a letter to their knights to find Helga as soon as possible. She tells her husband that she'll find Helga before the wedding and that she'll be the one to stay with the prince. She even refers to the prince as a murderer. Well, technically he is. He's a soldier, but how dare you disrespect our Rohan like this? The Duchess is sure that her beloved daughter will rule the whole House of Yttri. She tells Hyllian that she only needs to show herself to the Imperial Palace for a day. She reminds her that she is the one destined to rule House Yttri. Kind Hyllian still worries that they'll never find Helga, but her mother assures her that their knights are on the move. While the Duchess is telling her daughter this, she notes how similar Hyllian is to Helga and how the Imperial family will never notice as well, especially since what they desire is House Yttri, not Helga. How very wrong. I can't wait for the look on her face when she is proven wrong. She even tells Hyllian that she is also dying to see Helga again, a lie that Hyllian easily recognizes. She is more perceptive than these people give her credit for. She knows the Duchess has not loved Helga, but she has no choice but to obey her for now. Hyllian has entered the Imperial Palace and is being led to the prince. She is determined to make this work for Helga. When she sees the prince, his menacing eyes make her wonder how could Helga possibly fall in love with someone so fearsome? Why is this even a question? I mean, how can you not fall in love with him? I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, she greets him pleasantly, and at first, she believes that she did great. However, the prince suddenly asks her who she is. He declares that his fiancée is someone who values etiquette and would not have spoken before he had even accepted her greetings. Hyllian has been caught. The prince grasps her by the chin and asks her where Helga is. The crown prince knew all along. She is trembling as she replies that she doesn't know where she is. The prince concludes that if she doesn't know anything, then Helga really did disappear. Hyllian can't figure out what the prince is planning, but she knows that she has to protect Helga from the Yttri and this man. The prince tells her that her mother will not search for Helga, so she asks him what she should do. He tells her that they will continue with the engagement. The Duchess would hate to send Hyllian to the Imperial Palace, which means that she will search for Helga to replace her. That is when Hyllian realizes that this man is actually worried for her sister. She is crying as she tells him how everyone in the dukedom is so strange. He looks at her disapprovingly and remarks how she cries easily while Helga can't even cry even if she wants to. Despite this, she begs him that he must find Helga so she can take back her place. For once, the prince agrees with her. In Solarian, Helga is adding magic to a music box and she is able to successfully make it useful again. Sion is so amazed, and she tells him that she is going to sell the magic tools whose magic she infused herself with. Our Helga is really amazing. I can't wait for the future of her shop. However, she doesn't want to sell the music box, for he intends to include in her treasure box things that belong solely to her. Sion sees her smile, commenting that she looks her age when she does so. He then asks her why she came there in the first place. He seems wary, but she understands that he is worried that she may be a fugitive. She explains that she just ran away from home. She is so calm when she says it, even though Sion's eyes are bulging out of shock. She then asks him for a favor. She wants to borrow his name, claiming to want to use it to do bad things. That is not how you convince people, Helga. The Imperial Knight Commander, Teramon, is escorting Hyllian out of the carriage, and the Crown Prince steps after her. She is worried about why the prince bothered to bring the knights and his sword. The man even has a menacing look on his face. They are in the Yttri Duchy, and the Duchess is startled by their presence. The prince unsheaths his sword, and in a dangerous tone, he asks her where Helga is. It is clear to the Duchess that the prince has known that he was engaged to Helga all along. He swung his sword, and it landed near the Duchess's neck, demanding to know why Helga even left. She feigns ignorance, but the prince is not having any of that. He declares that he will turn a blind eye to their deceit against the royal family only if she answers him honestly. The Duchess is backed into a corner, and the only way she could save the Yttri dukedom is by revealing the truth. Ha! At last! Karma is working its wonders. So she confesses that she doesn't know where Helga is. Rohan then declares that she is the reason why Helga even left. He even remarks that he should have killed her a long time ago. This man is so intense, especially to those who hurt his Helga. Indeed, he is about to strike her down if not for Teramon's interference. He blocks his prince's sword and reminds him that they still need the Duchess to find Helga. Hearing this, the prince stands down. However, he demands that House Yttri pledge under some conditions. Rohan is prepared to contract with 2 important items. First, the Yttri duchy must do everything to find Helga. The second is that they would never covet Helga's position. The Duchess is acting all innocent again, but the prince is relentless. He makes it clear that all of Helga's accomplishments should not be handed to someone else. He wants them to postpone the wedding under the pretext of Hyllian's health, and Helga has merely gone to the south. He also demands to see Yttri's bank account. He threatens that the moment they break the terms, they will pay the price. The Duchess has no choice but to stamp the contract. It is so good to watch her entire plan be thwarted. Karma sure moves fast. Before the prince can leave, Hyllian chases after him. She tells him that she wants to help find Helga too. Rohan, who is being so judgy right now, asks how a lady with no basic etiquette, spoiled, and who knows only how to cry can possibly help. Hyllian clenches her fist, and as swift as the wind, takes Teramon's sword. The lady is in fact proficient in swordsmanship. She declares that she wants to join the Imperial Knights. Oh! Her character just got even more interesting! She has claws after all! She no longer wishes to always lean on her older sister. This time, she wants to protect her. The prince is quite impressed by her, so he orders Teramon to give her an application form. This makes Hyllian incredibly happy. Meanwhile, the prince knows that if Hyllian is in his hands, the Duchess won't act recklessly. Later on, Hyllian informs her mother that she doesn't want the Duke's or Crown Princess's position. Instead, she wants to join the Imperial Knights. Predictably enough, the Duchess does not take this well. She's enraged by her daughter's disobedience, but Hyllian stands firm. She blames the Duchess for Helga's leaving. She vows that she will find Helga with her own strength. We love a strong, independent woman. You go, girl! When the Duchess insults the mother who raised her, she warns her never to speak ill of her mother again. That is when she turns her back on her. Serves you right, Duchess. Helga is busy infusing more magical tools, much to Zion's amazement. She explains that some products, such as the magic lantern, need to be recharged by her magic constantly, which means it will be difficult to sell such one-off products. They need to create a new source of magic for recharging, such as mana stones. Crafted well, people will be able to use these stones. As usual, Zion is impressed by her brilliance. Right then, Helga thinks about her past and how she doesn't feel pressured in this life. However, her thoughts inevitably go to Rohan and the way he kissed her forehead the last time they saw each other. If only you knew how the prince is desperate to find you, Helga. Speaking of Rohan, the prince has visited Yttri's bank. While he is waiting, he contemplates why on earth the Yttris have treated Helga like that to the point that she'd leave. He desperately wants to know where Helga is hiding, and he wants a chance to protect her. After some time, the bank attendant arrives with Helga's crystal ball. Unfortunately, they can only see the deposit and withdrawal records and not the location. They discover that she has withdrawn money from her account. The prince is relieved that it seems like she's doing well. He orders that her account never runs out, and he hands the man a list of amounts meant to be transferred from the prince's account to Helga's. As long as Helga's alive, the prince is content for now, but he will make sure that they meet again. Back in Solarian, Helga is astonished to learn that she's receiving money from someone, and the amount she's receiving is suspicious. She then figures out that the numbers signify important dates in Rohan's and her life. Rohan is still waiting for her. With tears in her eyes, she apologizes to him because she will not be returning. Helga has got some money from the bank and promises Rohan that she will spend it well. And because Helga is so relatable, the first thing she does is go to a restaurant and enjoy food. Everyone in the restaurant is amazed to see a noble-looking lady amongst them. She orders a raspberry mousse cake, and as she is looking at the menu, she comes across the drink that Rohan ordered for her before, so she orders it. While waiting, she sees the gossip sheet, and she learns that because of her disappearance, the Duke's family is in crisis. She is smug because she knows that her father won't be able to maintain the business she was managing, especially since she destroyed all of the important paperwork. She is so devious. She also learns that Hyllian has joined the Imperial Knights. This shocks her. She speculates that Hyllian is doing this so she can secure her position in the palace, which can only mean that... Before she can finish her thought, her order arrives. The food lifts her mood, and she concludes that she isn't certain about Rohan and Hyllian yet, so it's best not to dwell on it. She marvels that her family is probably not looking for her at all, or if they are, they won't be able to do so since she is in Solarian. She suddenly remembers her friend Delight. She wonders if she's doing well. The lady in question is watching Hyllian as the other ladies talk bad about her. They speculate that she is shameless for stealing her sister's position, and Hyllian can only clench her hand in anger. Delight sees that based on her reaction, something is going on in the Yttris. She can't figure out what is going on with Helga. Delight is distraught that no matter how many letters she sends, Helga hasn't replied. She wonders if Hyllian really is the reason for all of these. She doesn't want to jump to conclusions, but ever since she arrived, things have become strange. She knows that the only way she can know more about Helga is through her sister. However, she can't ask her directly, as it would cause gossip. That is why she intends to use the immature and loose-tongued Lady Rosette Gropius to do so on her behalf. She approaches the lady and acts all kind to her. When Rosette notices the gloves she's wearing, she shares that it is the lace gloves that Helga has popularized. With the topic of Helga brought up, she voices her concern about her illness. She tells her how she's not close to Lady Hyllian. As planned, Rosette falls for it and volunteers to find out for her. Delight watches Rosette approach Hyllian. She is eager to know what kind of illness her friend has. If Hyllian is indeed responsible for all of this, she will never forgive her. Ooh, she is scary. I am so glad she's on Helga's side. Rosette asks Hyllian about her sister. She keeps on spouting various questions about the possibility of Helga being away permanently. Hyllian is beyond sad when she declares that Helga will definitely return. She begins crying, and the other ladies comfort her. They berate Rosette for being impolite, and when she tries to defend herself by mentioning Delight, she has already turned away. Delight does not understand why Hyllian is acting like that. Is Helga seriously ill? Why didn't her friend tell her anything? There's only one thing left to do. She just has to ask that person directly, the Crown Prince himself. Delight has no choice but to request an audience with the prince. She hasn't been eating and sleeping well because of this, so she has to cheer up because if she collapses, she may lose Helga. Meanwhile, the prince learns that Helga has been withdrawing the money he sent, which means she understands that he's waiting for her. She turns him into a coward. He is even more afraid of losing her than facing the battlefield. His servant then informs him that Lady Delight Cadrian has requested an audience. He knows that she is friends with Helga, which means that she probably knows something, so he allows her to visit. When they face each other, Delight tells him that there is something happening to the Yttri family because she knows Helga well. Rohan mockingly asks her if she is certain that she knows Helga well. She is offended by his words. However, when he asks her why Helga disappeared, she is stunned. She doesn't even know that she disappeared. Helga ran away from home and she didn't even say a word to her. The prince reveals how they tried to switch Helga with Hyllian. The truth outrages the lady and speculates that Hyllian probably doesn't know her place, causing Helga to leave. But Rohan tells her that Helga will not leave just because of that. He tells her how the Yttri household has been treating her friend all these years, and tears of anger begin falling down Delight's face. She really doesn't know anything at all. The prince tells her not to get carried away by her emotions and to recall what Helga had said to her the last time she saw her. Suddenly, Delight remembers that Helga has given her the Cadrian's magic wand as a birthday gift. Since wands can retain information about those who touch it, they can find her if she has touched it. Zion and Helga are looking around at the new look of Solamio. Zion notes how money is the best. Indeed it is. They can finally reopen safely the following day. Zion looks at Helga and notes that she's always wearing those shoes. Helga is reaching to place an item on a shelf when Zion calls for her attention. He suggests that they get a maid to help around. After thinking about it, she agrees that it is a good idea. However, Zion will be the one to hire the maid since his name is the technical owner of the shop. Zion inquires what she will do if he runs away. Summoning her magic, she smugly asks him if he thinks she'll lose him. She also tells him that she'll never forgive those who steal from her. Oh, she is so intimidating with her powers and all. So much so that Zion swears that he'll be good and listen to her. She promises to bring him a snack because he is so adorable. He complains that she treats him like a dog and that the snack should be expensive. Later on, she wakes up and looks at the window. The maid is supposed to arrive at 6 and the shop will open at 10. She knows that the business will not succeed right away, but she is certain it will do well. Suddenly, she sees someone approaching the shop, and she assumes it is the maid. She knows how diligent she is for arriving this early. When she opens the door, what greets her is someone familiar. It is her old maid, Sienna. Helga finds herself face to face with her most loyal maid, Sienna. The maid is teary-eyed upon seeing her former mistress, and Helga is confused about how she managed to learn where she is. At first, she is unwelcoming, but Sienna quickly explains that she is merely filling in the position of the maid Helga hired, who had to go home to care for her mother. She was totally unaware that she would ever meet Helga this way. She even shows her the recommendation letter she has with her. Sienna expresses how happy she is to see her again. After all, Helga was the one who saved her, and she entered the Duke's house to repay her kindness. Sienna helped her escape the duchy because she wanted the lady to finally be happy. Yay! This is great! Helga has another ally by her side. Helga warms up to her easily enough and invites her inside, effectively hiring her as her maid once again. Sienna is overjoyed and promises to work hard. Seeing Sienna shedding tears on her behalf, Helga realizes that there are still people who care for her. That's right, Helga. People love you more than you think. Later on, Sienna serves Helga and Sion their meals, and she has yet to trust Sion. While she coldly serves Sion his food, Sienna gives Helga her plate with utmost care. Helga is happy to once again taste Sienna's cooking. Sienna, on the other hand, comments that Helga has gotten thinner and is quick to blame Sion for it. Helga explains that Sion has been a great help to her and encourages Sienna to treat him kindly since they will all be working together in the future. Sienna understands, but she is quite annoyed that Sion addresses Lady Helga as Hyllian. But then she realizes that the lady has already given up that name. Meanwhile, Helga is thinking hard about how they can promote their shop while not revealing that she is a wizard. She plans to promote Solemio by implying that it is Sion who is making the magical tools. To do that, she needs to add the story about the mana stones and magical tools to the rumors already circulating about Sion. That is where Sienna comes in. Helga is in a cafe and she notices that people are still curious about her. They are also talking about the reopening of Solemio, and people are fascinated to see the magical items sold there. Helga is satisfied that Sienna has done her job well. She has ordered her maid to spread rumors about Sion and Solemio, which is an excellent choice considering that Sienna has relatives in Solarian. All that is left to be done is to influence the local gossip paper, which is why Sion has to be ready. Later on, a nervous Sion meets with his childhood friend turned journalist, Norbert. Even though he is armed with the script Helga wrote for him, he still fears that he will ruin everything. Nonetheless, as planned, he informs Norbert that he has gained a new sponsor due to the mana stones he had accidentally discovered. The interview continues despite some slight mishaps, mostly because Sion has to peek at his palm to review some information he has scribbled on it. Nevertheless, the interview went relatively well. He provides important details to sell their story, such as him being a distant relative of Seijin, and how the mana stones store magic power on their own. All in all, Sion did a great job. Way to go! Relieved by his success, Sion goes home, hoping to get a compliment from Helga. He then recalls to her how the interview went, which leads to Helga patting his head like a puppy, telling him he did well. How adorable. He does look like a puppy, doesn't he? Such a cutie. Sion is so hyped by the praise that he asks for another task, declaring himself a genius. However, one swipe of Sienna's hand cuts off his train of thought as she demands that he clean up the shop. Poor Sion reluctantly retreats to the shop, but not before calling Sienna mean. They are like children. Is it just me, or am I sensing some chemistry between these two? What do you think, guys? Helga goes back to her work, and she notes that only simple magical tools are available in the shop, such as musical boxes, cameras, and accessories. To have variety in the store, she needs to have more books from Utopia. Fortunately, she has a teleportation device and a good errand boy who really likes compliments, aka Sion. Meanwhile, back in the capital, people notice that Hyllian has somehow become closer to Delight, who has such a high standard. However, they still manage to insult her because of her apparent lack of talent, considering that the House of Yttri is in decline. They even note that the Imperial Palace's Chamberlain has been going to their bank every day, implying that the wealth of Yttri might be taken over by the royal family. Ha! If you guys only knew that Rohan is simply looking for his girlfriend, LOL. Currently, Delight, Hyllian, and the rest of the ladies are arranging flowers. Delight has to remind Hyllian not to use too many flowers, but Hyllian insists that there are simply too many flowers that will suit her sister. Aww, she's making flowers for Helga. Hyllian really is a sweet soul. Delight then hands Hyllian the flower that Helga usually uses. Hyllian is overjoyed by the gesture, noting that Delight really is close friends with her sister. The other ladies, on the other hand, divert the attention to Delight's creation, which looks depressing to say the least. Nonetheless, the ladies are clearly trying to get on her good side by complimenting it endlessly. But Delight is quite proud of it, so at least she's happy. Lady Delight then glances at Hyllian and notes just how similar she is to Helga. She wonders if Helga will be mad if she uses her sister. I wonder what Delight is planning. It turns out that Prince Rohan has tasked her to obtain something that will activate the magic wand that was given to her by Helga. The prince wants her to not get caught up in emotions and do everything to obtain that something. He makes it clear that as long as he knows where Helga is, he will deal with the rest. A bit intense there, Rohan, but I get where you're coming from. Apparently, Delight needs Hyllian to obtain that something, the reason why she is trying to be close to her now. She congratulates Hyllian for her and Helga's upcoming birthday. She even announces to the other ladies that since Hyllian is Helga's younger sister, she is her friend as well. But what Delight is doing is observing Hyllian whether she will have to take that something by force or by telling her the truth. Later on, Hyllian receives a letter that shocks her. She can't believe that her mother really went to Helga's airship research facility. The Duchess is in the facility because, considering their current situation, she has to make use of the airship's popularity, so House Yttri will no longer be shaken. She knows that she has promised the Crown Prince that she will not touch any of Helga's business, but she reasons that that only applies when Helga returns. She can always return it to her when she comes back. Ugh, she is so distasteful. When Helga was still there, you made her feel worthless, and now that she's left, you scramble to stabilize yourselves? In case you're not aware, Duchess, that is what you call karma. Sherry greets the Duchess, but she is practically ignored with the Duchess seeing her only as a child. She is clearly unaware that she is Sherry Gunford, the inventor of the airships. Even though her father explains to the Duchess that Sherry has a role in the laboratory, the Duchess still ignores her importance. Ha! We'll see where your arrogance will lead you, Duchess. With no further ado, the Duchess makes her intention clear. She wants to collect the airship under Helga's contract. That is when Sherry realizes that the Duchess hasn't heard from Helga at all, especially since she is unaware that she is the one who designed and launched those ships into the sky. Her father is the director of the facility by name only. All the final decisions are made by her. She wonders if the Duchess is really here on behalf of Miss Helga, who has apparently been sick since their engagement ceremony. She hasn't heard from the lady in a while, and now the Duchess suddenly arrives to claim the airship in her name? She now doubts that the Duchess really has Helga's permission to do this. So she snatches the contract from the Duchess's hand, and despite her protests, reads the signed names quickly. It is signed under Helga's name, so Sherry declares that the airship can only be collected once Helga goes there in person. The Duchess is enraged as she goes through the contract herself. She turns her anger at Sherry, claiming that children shouldn't involve themselves in adult conversations. That is when Sherry introduces herself as the one who is in charge of the research. Ha! Take that, Duchess! Karma is so sweet. Back in the Yttri residence, the Duchess is fuming. With all their business suspended, she can't believe that they can't even rely on the airship ventures. She is running out of options. For a moment, she considers having Hyllian pretend to be Helga, but she stops herself because she knows that her daughter is not yet ready. Can her daughter handle the weight of Helga's name? In Solamio, Helga is extremely happy that the article about her store came out well. Scion and the magical items they sell are painted in such good light that it is enough to invite people to check them out. Business is going so well that their store is currently filled with people demanding to buy their items. Scion and Sienna are beside themselves since the customers can be too much to handle. Nonetheless, business is booming. Good for you, Helga! She really is an excellent businesswoman. However, poor Scion is being bombarded by customer requests that he can barely figure out which one to attend first. He is almost in tears as he asks Helga to come and save him. He is adorable even when he is frustrated. He can never escape the puppy allegation. At the end of the day, Helga looks elated, and Sienna easily notices her good mood. Helga tells her that is because their business is doing so well. Sienna then recognizes an article that Helga is reading. It is about the suspension of the airship business. Helga comments that it is probably because of the announcement of her illness. In her mind, Helga is internally rejoicing that Sherry was able to figure out how to understand her intention perfectly. Suddenly, Scion enters and he is crying out of exhaustion. He can't believe that the lady has failed to mention that they would be this busy, and now he feels like he is dying. He is so dramatic, even slumping to the ground for effect. But Helga only has to pat his head and tell him he did well, and he is instantly in a better mood. Sion then informs them that they are running out of things to sell, so Helga replies that she'll have to make some more. Sion, who by the way is still being dramatic on the ground, tells her that she can't possibly make all those on her own. He is so concerned for his dear Miss Hyllian, but don't worry, Sion, she is more awesome than you think. Unleashing her powers, Helga makes it clear that she most certainly can. She calls 4 element spirits: the spirit of fire, Happy; the spirit of water, Shushu; the spirit of light, Minky; the spirit of earth, Choco; and the spirit of wind, Genie. Their names are so cute, and most importantly, they all look cute. From then on, these spirits will help them in their business ventures. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Palace, the maids are gossiping about the Crown Prince's sour mood. After all, that day is supposed to be his wedding day. The gossiping maids even talk about how the prince is searching for Lady Helga, even though the one he is engaged to is Lady Hyllian. They don't understand why he would cancel his wedding. Oh, gossiping maids, if only you guys knew what the real deal is. But then again, you shouldn't be gossiping about other people's personal lives. The Crown Prince is walking along the halls of the palace while his assistant, Warwick, trails behind him. The assistant is telling him how the esteemed daughter of House Cadrian and the esteemed daughter of House Yttri are hanging out. Warwick then advises the prince that since he is to take the throne in a few years, he must marry Lady Hyllian soon. Instantly, the aura around the prince changes and the atmosphere screams danger. Uh-oh, you shouldn't have said a word, Warwick. The prince touches his shoulder and leans forward. He then ominously tells him that if he speaks more about this topic, his head will be rolling on the floor. OMG, how graphic, Prince Rohan! Jeez, calm down. Warwick is shaken by the prince's threat, so he agrees easily enough. Rohan thinks about how Helga has tormented him enough. Since they were little, all he ever wished for was her happiness. He vows that as long as she comes back, he will not ask for anything, not even to look at him or understand his feelings. He will never force her to do anything. All he wants is for her to let him stay by her side. Oh my god. My heart goes out to our Prince Rohan. He may be incredibly terrifying, but he sure does love Helga. Meanwhile, back in Solamio, Sion is getting ready to go to the capital. Alone, and he is utterly terrified. He even insists that he is a 19-year-old who still needs protection, but this excuse doesn't work that well for him when Helga points out that she is a 16-year-old who went all the way to Solarian alone. But despite using his puppy eyes on her, she assures him that he'll be okay, and that he will just have to buy the things she's written on the list. If I were Helga, I would have melted, but Helga is a tough nut to crack. In the end, Sion gathers his courage and puts on a brave face. When Helga wishes that he have a great trip, he turns around and makes it known that he is only mustering his courage for her. Aw, how adorable! I think someone has a little crush on our Lady Helga. Meanwhile, at the Yttri residence, the Duchess is asking for an update from her brother, Wolfgang, about Helga's whereabouts. He is unable to give her anything, but Wolfgang asks if he has to get rid of Helga for making it difficult for his niece. And this witch of a Duchess tells him that they can do it later. However, the Duchess makes it clear that for now, he needs to bring Helga back unharmed. Ugh, how despicable are these people? Planning to harm a 16-year-old girl? Really? Y'all are the definition of pathetic. Prince Rohan has received an invitation to Lady Hyllian's party. Upon learning that there isn't any news about Helga, the prince laments that he can't spend her birthday with her. His knight then informs him that House Yttri has finally made their move again, and it is obvious to the prince that they have a trick up their sleeve. He reminds the knight that they need to ensure Helga's safety, and if the Yttri gets in the way, he orders that the knights take care of them. Oof, he is ruthless, but my god is he handsome. Oops, I got off track again. My bad. Anyway, when he arrives at the Yttri's estate for the party, he meets Lady Cadrian. He asks her when she will be finished, and Delight explains that all she has to do is to persuade Hyllian so he doesn't have to wait for long. She thinks that Hyllian will help out since she is genuinely concerned for Helga. Delight herself is hoping that her friend will return soon. The prince wants the same thing, however, there is no guarantee that Helga won't leave again if they bring her back forcefully. If it is up to him, he'd rather lock Helga away so that she can't meet anyone and no one else can see her. He will be the only one left in her world. That is a dangerous thought, my prince. But he knows that Helga has to return on her own free will, and he tells Delight so. Lady Cadrian is surprised because if this is so, then why is the prince desperately searching for Helga? Rohan smiles deviously and answers that there is a difference between not knowing where she is and pretending that he doesn't know. During the party, Hyllian is obviously uncomfortable, especially since people are gossiping that they threw this over-the-top party for her when Lady Helga is ill. Meanwhile, her parents are pretending that everything is fine. Rohan is in the corner, drinking his glass of wine, but he decides to go somewhere more secluded to get rid of all the eyes that are on him. He locks eyes with Lady Delight, and his smirks imply that she better hurry up. Delight gets the message easily enough, and soon she is on the move. She approaches Lady Gropius with a favor. Delight tells her that she has yet to give her present to Lady Hyllian and explains that her gift is personal. So she asks the unsuspecting lady to call Lady Hyllian discreetly to her private room. The lady agrees easily enough, happy to help Lady Kadrian with this matter. In a private room, Prince Rohan enters and greets Delight, assuring her that he wasn't followed at all. He asks her if she has completed her preparation, and she assures him that she has and that everything will be solved. Moments later, a solemn Lady Hyllian arrives. She voices out her surprise upon seeing the Crown Prince, who is currently staring daggers at her. But rather than explain his presence, Delight asks her to take a seat instead. Delight notes that Hyllian is not at all on guard with being alone with them, but Hyllian explains that is because Delight is Helga's best friend and she feels grateful for her. She confesses that she's learned much from Delight, especially on how to protect her sister's place. She strongly vows to do anything for Helga's sake, even if she has to forsake herself. If only all sisters are like her. She may have the soul of an angel, but she is willing to be strong for Helga. Delight is delighted to see Hyllian's dedication, so she shows her a box. When Hyllian opens it, she sees a magic wand. Delight then explains that the object is born from the magic of House Kadrian, and that it can be used to locate anything and anyone, even Helga. Upon hearing this, Hyllian is overjoyed, but Delight continues that it comes with a price, and that is Hyllian. Hyllian is taken aback, but when Delight explains that they need the blood of a family member who has a strong desire to find Helga, Hyllian does not hesitate to offer herself, even asking where she must wound herself for this to happen. My gosh, she is so selfless. She really wants her sister back. Good thing that Delight only needs a little blood from her, and Hyllian instantly obeys her, cutting a wound onto her palm. When the blood drips on the wand, bright flashing lights appear all around them, and finally, the wand can be used to locate Helga. The prince, who has been silent throughout the whole thing, finally stands, but only to get the wand from Delight. After telling Delight that she did well and assuring her that he'll keep the end of the bargain, the prince leaves the two ladies behind. Hyllian is happy that they can finally find Helga, but she suddenly staggers out of exhaustion. Delight catches her and explains that it's because her will was used to track Helga. All she has to do is rest. Far away from them, Helga is looking at a flower with the same color as Delight's hair. She wonders if her friend is doing well, and she feels guilty for being a bad friend for leaving without a word. All she knows is that she misses her friends. At the same time, Delight is still holding Hyllian, and she greets Helga a happy birthday, vowing that they'll meet again. The brisk morning sunlight shines on as the day begins. Helga, who is wide awake at this early hour, is already sitting up in her bed when she hears someone at her door. It turns out to be Sienna, and the maid is delighted when she finds the flowers she gave her lady for her birthday the day before were already arranged by Helga herself. Sienna tries to praise her lady for her flower arrangement skills, but Helga attributes it all to the beautiful vase that is in fact from Sienna as well. The two then share a very warm smile as Helga gives her thanks, and Sienna greets her the happiest of birthdays, not as a lady and her maid, but as friends. Aww, their smiles fill the room with as much light as the early morning sun. Sienna really is the most loyal of friends. Anyhow, seeing as it's her lady's birthday, Sienna offers to cook something special for her, but the latter suggests that they should go out to eat instead. Helga mentions a restaurant that seems to be of a popular sort, but upon hearing that they are going to a high-class establishment, Sienna gets a little bit shy and fidgety. Admittedly, Helga knows that with Sienna's current wardrobe, and even Scion's for that matter, making them go to a social setting they're not used to might be too much for them. And so she instead proposes that they should visit a boutique first and get themselves dressed right before going out to eat. OMG! Shopping! What's more, when Sienna mentions that she'll be spending her own money as they go shopping, Helga immediately says that she'll be the only one spending money today. Sienna tries to reason that she shouldn't since it's her birthday, but her lady is pretty determined to do so, saying that all she and Scion have to do is celebrate with her as she lets out another radiant smile. I am glad that for the first time she can finally celebrate her birthday with much ease. She does reassure Sienna that she has enough money to spend though. In terms of money, Helga is confident that all her funds, profits, and even money from Rohan are more than enough for today. And speaking of Sion, since he's still out on an errand, Helga decides to leave him a note as both she and Sienna get a head start. Sion, on the other hand, despite being tired from all the things Helga has tasked him to buy, the sheer weight of carrying the things as well, still remains optimistic as he now has a gift for Helga. He manages to catch up, and by the end of their shopping spree, both he and Sienna are drained of energy from all the clothes they had to try and wear. Even Sienna's perseverance seems to be at its limit, but you can never rush fashion. Regardless, Sion sees this as the right time to give his gift, which Helga accepts, finding it a beautiful heart-shaped ruby pendant. Although extremely thankful and happy for her present, Helga knows that Sion's feelings for her have become too obvious to ignore. Oh, Sion, you cutie. I'm afraid there's a certain prince who will get in your way. The group had finally gotten to dine at the fine restaurant just as they had planned. The meals were so good that even Helga didn't expect such a restaurant to exist here in Solarian. Her two companions also agree, though Sion quietly comments how the food was just as expensive as it was good. Nonetheless, Sienna beams with gratitude, and the next time she says she'll be the one to treat her lady when they decide to eat out there again. Helga, on the other hand, playfully shakes her head, amused by Sienna's suggestion. However, she says that it is, in fact, the duty of the employer and not the employee to spend money on these things. Sienna understands, but still, she pushes her case, saying rather embarrassingly that her pay is already 5 times that of the average salary for maids. What? In that case, can I be your maid too, Lady Helga? Even Sion is surprised by this because his salary too is over 5 times the usual amount. The two then express their concern for their lady if this continues to be the case. She's giving too much, and although admittedly it's good for the workers, even Sion has to ask Helga to not strain herself that much. But Helga is quick to justify their salary, saying that although Sienna is a maid, she's literate and can even write. In Sion's case, there's nobody more sincere than him. Aww, he really is. Besides, Helga is rich, so no problem there. Anyway, this sends the two into another round of happiness because of her praises, but it also ends with Sion and Sienna bickering about who gets to pay back Helga first. Instead of breaking it up in the traditional sense, Helga manages to top the two's argument by saying she'll still be the one to give freebies anyway. As the night rolls in after the eventful day, Helga finds herself sitting on her balcony alone with all the gifts she received today. Some, like the flowers, pendant, and vase, were precious and without deceit. The others, referring to some bank statements about money being deposited to her, she thinks are not so much. She appreciates them nonetheless, and with her nanny whom she loves so much in mind, she lays the bracelet, her treasured gift, from her and puts it in a box, saying that now she has people who love her and are far from trouble. Unfortunately, she may have spoken too soon, as the morning after, a group clad in cloaks infiltrated the town where she lives. The head of the infiltrators seeking Helga turns out to be none other than the Crown Prince himself, Rohan. For all the times he's searched, the only reason he has succeeded is because of a magical-looking wand he's carrying underneath the cloak. Anyway, he commands his group to stop right by an alleyway facing what is unbeknownst to them, Sion's shop, the very place the wand had seemingly been leading them to. He then orders Warwick to go and find out about the shop. Though a little bit shocked that he's to go alone, Warwick nonetheless leaves his cloak and marches forward. And apparently, Thurman is among the group as well. Seeing as how the investigation may very well take up half a day, he offers to gather some food for the men with Rohan, a suggestion the prince agrees to. Right as the afternoon starts rolling in, Warwick returns from his investigation. He then spills all the information he has gathered, starting with the shop owner being a man. Naturally, the prince bears the slightest pangs of jealousy, so much so that he grasps his sword, but otherwise allows his advisor to continue. Warwick then discloses the shop as one that sells magical items, despite it being an old antique shop. There's also supposedly an employee and a maid in the establishment, but Warwick missed them. Jamie then steps forward to check on the shop himself, though he needs a reminder to leave his sword before doing so. Anyhow, pretending that he had to buy some recovery potions, he's able to talk to Sion, who, despite initial hesitance, gives in after seeing Jamie's gold. He tries to discreetly ask for information about the others in his shop, but Sion manages to catch on and gives curt answers. Jamie then relays his findings about the other 2 supposed occupants of the shop being nowhere to be found. And so the prince again laments how he seems to be too late at saving and seeing Helga yet again. Don't worry, my prince, you're one step closer to her. Despite Kadrian's magic wand helping him in his search, he's lost her again. Right when despair seems to take him, he hears Sion's voice talking to none other than Helga. Seeing her beautiful smile yet again, the prince revels in the fact that he has found Helga. Finally, the prince's heart can rest that his Helga is safe and sound. 2 years have passed since Rohan has found Helga. Rather coincidentally, it seems the crown prince is again trying to leave the castle discreetly. As he walks the hallways by himself, Thurman manages to catch up to him and ask him where he's going. I bet he's off to see his darling Helga. I mean, where else would this lovesick prince go? However, just as soon as he starts talking about Warwick's warning about suddenly vacating his throne, Rohan immediately stops Thurman with his stare and asks him whether he plans to stop him. Knowing better than to stop the prince in his intense mood as of late, the unfortunate Thurman has no choice but to let Rohan be. The knight gets saved from a sermon from Warwick anyway when Hyllian arrives, asking for a swordsmanship tutor from Thurman himself. A little bit of praise does the trick. It seems that the young lady's dream is to find Helga after she becomes a knight, but it turns out the prince hadn't made it public knowledge that he had already done so. I am so glad that Hyllian is able to be her own person now, and she'll be a knight! Meanwhile, speaking of her ladyship, it seems that Helga and the others are just about done with their preparations for a meeting in order to gather investors. Helga expresses her pride and gratitude at the growth of Sion's business skills. He himself had worked and found their new investor just as she was agonizing about their funds. With that, they have enough to secure investments in their meeting the next day. Sienna then bursts through the room, bringing dresses for her lady, wanting her to look her best. She even suggests that they buy her new shoes as well, but Helga expresses her attachment to the ones she's been wearing for the past 2 years. Nonetheless, as the preparations are done, the trio then plans again to eat outside after meeting with their investor. Though again, both Sion and Sienna are trying to compete on who picks up the check for their meals. After 2 years, these two are still the same. Left to her own thoughts, Helga starts feeling proud about how far their little shop has managed to improve in just 2 years. With the investment, they'll be able to eventually expand the business to the capital, hence ensuring her plans to return to the capital city with confidence. The time for the meeting with their investor has finally come, and Sion, being the owner, has the pleasure of introducing both Helga and Sienna to Jonathan Felitte, their chosen investor. As the heir of the Felitte family, a northern nobility, he had control of the merchants group, mainly through creating and maintaining the wealth of his family's estate. And it's not unusual for him to invest in Solemio, their shop, since Jonathan's family mainly deals with ores and would benefit from magical tools using mana stones. Helga still vows to reel him in nonetheless. Anyway, the start of their meeting is filled with pleasantries. Jonathan even compliments her ever-changing eye color, giving a hint that he has heard of her. He better not have any bad intentions. Despite no outward malicious intent, Helga decides to still be a little wary of him. They didn't drop their good attitudes, though, and so they then present him with their proposed contract. Just as Jonathan goes through the contents intently, Sion admits that it is mostly Helga who has drafted the contract. This leads Jonathan to comment on how it makes her somewhat of a behind-the-scenes influence, but Helga dismisses it quickly. After his thorough reading, Jonathan only has one takeaway. He doubts whether or not the tollgate machinery, a magical teleportation device, is even possible. However, Helga puts all her chips in their store. Knowing all the ins and outs of building such a fusion of science and magic, she's confident that with his investment, it could work. I really love how confident she is. How to be you, girl? But in order to offer Jonathan a bit more insight on where his money is going, she offers more details once the contract has progressed further. Considering that such a machine will drastically change the means of transport for the entire kingdom, Jonathan eventually agrees. He puts their agreement to paper and gives them a timetable of 3 years in order to pay back his investments, along with 2 years to start the relocation of their office to the capital, and for the start of their toll gate. It's good news, no buts or if attached, but Helga starts to get a little bit of doubt when Jonathan just agrees to a deal that heavily favors the other party instead of him. However, the man, with a shred of malice, says that he's only interested in Solemio's future. Now that the road she paid for herself is as secure as it has ever been, Helga finds herself closing in on achieving her dreams of standing proudly in front of her old family again. Success really is the best revenge. Oh, to see the look on that arrogant Duchess! In the meantime, though, she goes with Sion and Sienna to start their celebration after closing the deal. Unbeknownst to her, however, the Crown Prince is hiding in the shadows, happy that he can see Helga smiling and eagerly promising to prepare for her return. There is somewhat of a buzz among the townsfolk whenever the chameleon employee from the Salemio shop, who in actuality is Helga, takes a stroll through the town. This time with flowing black hair, she turns just as many heads as she generates whispers and conversations amongst the people. Apparently, Helga's beauty is enough to catch the eye of more than one of the Solarian youth. Ranging from sons of a rich family to the eldest of one that owns a restaurant, to even the youngest son of a viscount, all seem to fall head over heels for her. However, when the gossiping ladies try to cast their guesses on which suitor Helga will eventually pick, they suddenly feel a cold draft in the air, cold enough to stop them from talking further. It turns out it's in fact the Crown Prince's jealous aura that had done the trick. Well, what can you do, Rohan? Your Helga is gorgeous. You better up your game. Anyway, Helga manages to reach her home where she finds Scion doing chores. After exchanging pleasantries and giving him a tiramisu wrapped in a nice gift box, Helga proceeds to ask him about his day at the shop. Scion immediately goes into a half-complaining tone, saying that he's been busy since morning because their reoccurring customer, who always buys teleportation scrolls in bulk, had come to the store again along with some requests unusual to his order. Still, the lady pays no heed, instead focusing on the fact that the items were indeed sold. Onto other matters, Scion informs Helga of the arrival of the workshop early in the morning, and of their need for magical kilns to operate. If they plan to expand, they would need the machinery in order to create magic-infused mana stones in order to operate a magical tool. It's essentially Helga's solution to the fact that, although it's easy to craft magical items, using them would be another matter. Helga then decides to visit the kilns herself early in the morning. Scion argues to go with her, despite the fact that Helga already informed him that she has to meet with a real estate agent the next day too. He still wouldn't have stopped, actually, if it wasn't for the same cold, heavy feeling that people of the townsfolk had earlier. The next morning, Helga finds herself a little bit disappointed because the locations she cited aren't suitable for her teleportation as a means of public transport. And so, like a boss, Helga orders, or perhaps strongly suggests, that her agent have the owner sell their property, and if that she can't find a good place, she'll just have to take one. Helga really is girl bossing her way around town. We love a confident queen. True enough, the words of the townsfolk about Helga's popularity among the young suitors of the town become more and more evident. Unfortunately, it's Scion who gets to experience this firsthand as the shop gets packed by what look like customers, but are actually bachelors waiting for the lady to make her appearance. Unfortunately for you guys, there's already a certain someone who's first in line. But I don't fault y'all for trying. After all, Helga's beauty is one to behold. One such suitor is none other than the famed eldest son of the very rich restaurant from their town, Jason, who, curiously, despite his position, seems to have a lot of free time on his hands. But Scion is the one who has to babysit all these young men waiting for Helga as they are posing as customers. There's nothing he hates more, really, as he thinks most, if not all, are truly undeserving of her ladyship's attention. Just by having wealth and good looks, all of them seem to think that they have a shot. But as Scion proudly concludes in his head, Helga supposedly likes people who work hard instead of those who mull about and loiter in their place. A little while later, Helga finally enters the room, as radiant and bright as the sun. She turns the heads of all the young men in the shop, as they are all suitors in hiding. However, even as Helga just goes to the front of the store to have a talk with Scion, Julius immediately jumps at the chance to ask her out. Fortunately, it seems that Scion isn't the only one affected by those trying to take attention away from their lady. Right as Julius tries to hard-headedly attempt to get a date with Helga, Sienna's malicious aura explodes, making even him stop in his tracks. And as it turns out, they aren't the only ones. Apparently, the Crown Prince Rohan had infiltrated the store on that day as well. The entire commotion had him reaching for his sword, making his companion breathe a sigh of relief at Sienna's intervention. Poor jealous boyfriend. He can't even do anything to stop all of these. Nonetheless, the prince suddenly asks for all the knights to be summoned for a sparring and promptly walks away, right as Scion feels the cold, almost wind-like aura he had felt earlier today. For this particular day, the Crown Prince isn't in Solarian, like where he's been off to these past few years, but is in his quarters playing a game of chess with Warwick. Or dominating a game of chess against Warwick might be the better term. Anyhow, despite the fact that he's beaten Warwick time and time again, the prince is a well-known genius, Rohan still keeps playing and calling for a rematch. Not to humiliate his advisor, but actually, he seems preoccupied with the fact that there are too many suitors trying to get Helga, referring to them as people who don't know their place. Speaking of events pertaining to Solarian, it seems that the knights have finally reached a point where they had to complain about the prince's request for a spar right after his visits. They claim that he always gets a little bit too intense after each visit, and it has gotten that much worse that they actually propose to raid and attack each man in town just to get him to stop. An idea that Rohan finds amusing, of course. He is as ruthless as ever, apparently. Anyhow, the prince then asks for Thurman's whereabouts, to which he learns that his trusted knight had now been widening up their supposed search for Lady Helga at Hyllian, the town ahead of Solarian. If they're going to pretend they still haven't found her and throw off the Knights of Yttri from her tracks, they have to do a very convincing job of acting like they're still searching. Waiting for Helga's return isn't that much of a burden, seeing as how he already knows where she is. However, it's only because of those that the prince gets antsy about the whole thing. Rohan makes it clear that the only reason that they have driven Helga away is because apparently she was born of a maid. Warwick confirms this, especially since the information came from Wolfgang himself, the Duchess's half-brother. On other matters, though, it seems that the Empress's palace has finally learned of Hyllian's choice to postpone her marriage in order to enter knighthood. A solution proposed by the prince to appease the Empress is to have Lady Delight send a letter asking her to join the court as a lady-in-waiting. Warwick advises him on this, of course, but Rohan is confident anyway, for a number of reasons. 1, he's the crown prince, and 2, Lady Delight and him are allies when it comes to Helga. When Hyllian arrives at the House of Cadrian, Delight offers some tea and asks if the Duchess still commands her to attend gatherings of high society. Hyllian sighs in frustration, saying that she refuses to obey her mother's wishes because she's too occupied with the knights. With serene eyes, Delight asks Hyllian if she'd be able to accompany her at gatherings for a while. Hyllian was quite confused about it. Delight explains how Rosette has been spouting nonsense about Helga, especially what she said to everyone at a fundraiser not too long ago. Delight squeezes the teacup plate out of anger before drinking her tea. Rosette's been watching too much drama, thinking that she's the main character this time. Rosette must have been enjoying herself so much that she forgot to know her place. Also, it's been 2 years since Helga left the capital, so Delight wants to tidy things up before her return. She really hates it when a useless drivel gets into her best friend's ears. So Hyllian just needs to go with her on a few social occasions. Delight no longer needs Rosette at this point. Girl, she deserves it. Hyllian expresses her gratitude for doing this much for Helga's sake. She then assumes that Helga will be happy when she returns to the Yttri house. Delight smiles at Hyllian, but at the back of her mind, she knows that Helga will never go back to the Yttris. Since her friend is running a new business in Solarian right now, what good are the Yttris to a person such as Helga? When Helga returns to the capital, the Yttris will just be nothing to her. However, Hyllian still worries about her sister. If Wolfgang finds her... Delight assures Hyllian that Wolfgang won't be able to find Helga, and if he does, the Yttris will be destroyed by Rohan before then. In the duchy, Hyllian's mother is fuming with anger when she finds out that her daughter isn't attending any social gatherings. Suddenly, the butler comes in and delivers the bad news that the Duke, Strolli, has been arrested for fraud. It's one problem after the other, and the Duchess trembles in terror as she falls down to her seat. She bites her lips and clenches her fist, thinking that if only Helga was around, their reputation wouldn't be destroyed to such an extent. Says the one who constantly abused her daughter instead. She then orders to summon Wolfgang and find Helga at any cost. As if you can. Meanwhile, in Solarian, Helga is thinking of creating a telescope that can see as far as the stars beyond the sky. Sion wonders if that's even possible. To prove that such a thing can be created, Helga taps the table and uses her magic to finish the product. Sion and Sienna fight over whoever tries it first. Unfortunately for Sion, Helga permits Sienna to try it first. When she does, she's way too amazed. She can really see anything like how the distant sea feels like it's right in front of her. Even Sion didn't miss being in awe of this tool. Helga thinks that it's not difficult to make a small magical tool like this, and that the vessels that can hold magical power are progressively getting bigger. At this rate, completing the toll gate won't be a problem. Shortly after, Sion opens up about Helga's goal to relocate her head office to the capital. When he ran into Norbert yesterday, he said that the atmosphere in the capital has recently become menacing because of Rohan. There's also a story about a frenzied tussle between a meeting with the nobles. Many people quit their imperial duties because they are afraid of him, and so Sion thinks that it's a bit of a problem to move to the capital if the situation continues. Helga doesn't seem to hear anything after Sion mentions Rohan's name. When Sion calls her attention, she flinches and apologizes. However, she assures them that moving to the capital will not be a problem. When Helga takes her leave to take care of other things, she rushes to go inside her office. There, she ponders about what Sion said. The Rohan she hears about these days is very different from the Rohan she knew. This time, Helga's starting to doubt the kindness that Rohan showed to her. But the worst part is, why is he still engaged to Hyllian? Is it because he believes that she'll come back, or is he showing her how Hyllian is taking her place to criticize how she left on her own? But how about the money that he keeps sending to her? She then caresses a small box, wondering what Rohan is thinking about everything he has done so far. She doesn't understand anything right now, but one thing is for certain, Rohan hasn't forgotten her yet. The next morning, Sienna knocks on the door to see if her lady is fine. Helga would be lying if she said she wasn't troubled by it, but she assures her that Solamio is more important than Rohan right now, so she's just fine. Sienna notices that she isn't fine at all, so she changes the topic and hands Helga the newspaper. This news is about the Duke being imprisoned for fraud. He extorted investments by lying about Helga Yttri's return, and the judge sentenced him to 2 years in prison. Helga is quite happy about it and doesn't even feel blue about it. He clearly deserves it because even now, he's true to his type. Meanwhile, the Duchess bites her nails, cursing her husband for making a huge mistake. When Hyllian arrives to meet her outside the knight's premises, her mother doesn't miss to criticize how she keeps lying about being busy with the knights. Hyllian doesn't want to argue with her mother, so she asks her to get to the point. The Duchess clenches her teeth and reveals that her father was arrested. To pay for bail, the amount is too much, and if they were the Yttris of the past, maybe they could afford it, but now they clearly can't. Fortunately, the guards are staying quiet since Hyllian is still the prospective crown princess. But because of the article published in the daily newspaper, people are making a big fuss about it. So she wants her daughter to help her talk to the guards, an organization belonging to the knights. Hyllian can't believe that her mother wants her to abuse her power to bail out the offender. And so, she simply tells her that she cannot interfere with an impartial investigation. Her mother didn't appreciate her daughter to let her father be stuck in prison. This comes like a bolt from the blue. Her mother tries to tell her that it's not like that, but Hyllian is firm with her belief that if one commits a crime, they must be punished. Deeply enraged by her daughter's remarks, the Duchess now blames Helga for running away after leaving things in disarray, justifying how her husband turned into such a mess to the family. How is that Helga's fault? Hyllian clenches her fists and emphasizes that her father did that to himself. Helga has no control over it, and she's not responsible for his crime. I admit, Hyllian has so much patience for this woman. I could never. Her mother yells at her, saying that he only did that for them, and even points out that the house will belong to Hyllian in the future. However, her daughter doesn't want the Yttri duchy, so what the Duke did, she shouldn't say it was for her daughter's sake. Period. Just like that, Hyllian makes it clear that what the Duke did isn't what the family head should do to her daughter. She then walks away, leaving her mother with such a hard time. Even if Hyllian is quite softer than Helga, she doesn't let her mother manipulate her. Now the Duchess regrets cutting ties with her own family because she was lured in by the Yttri name. The Duchess then tells the butler to pay the bail by any means and to put the Duke under house arrest at the villa. Then, she'll spread rumors that Strolli is ill and she needs to find a place to marry Hyllian off, thinking that the current crisis will be resolved with her daughter's marriage. And when Wolfgang catches Helga, she'll hold her responsible for all of this. Crazy mother who blames her daughter who isn't even around. Ma'am, you have yourself and your husband to blame. The next day, the Duchess asks Wolfgang for an update on their search, but to no avail, they can't find her. She disappeared without a trace, and even the Imperial Knights made no headway in their search as well. But he was still suspicious and went as far as searching the powder room. Still, there were no rumors about a woman with blonde hair and red eyes. The Duchess is already displeased about it when he suddenly points out that maybe Helga entered a certain noble family as a maid, or maybe used her looks to become a mistress. The Duchess suddenly grabs his clothes and screams at him for looking down on someone who has the blood of a Yttri, further emphasizing that the likes of him, a child of a mistress, are not to criticize her carelessly. He apologizes for overstepping, but the Duchess still trusts his loyalty to her. Even if he catches her, he must not forget to handle her with care. Not because she cares for her, but because she needs her to regain their reputation in high society. On the other side of the empire, Helga plans on building an entirely new building, so she asks Sion to go to the capital and find a place to relocate Solamio. Sion isn't that confident that his choosing would be of her liking, but still, he doesn't need to worry. After all, they will be making the final decision together. Helga thinks that Sion is better off looking at buildings and land since he isn't used to the place and that his choice must not be biased. That itself is important. With this, both Utopia and high society will pay attention to him, and maybe even the Seijin family too. The Seijins must have heard the rumors and investigated the credibility of Salemio's magical tools. They will try to entice Scion into the Seijin family. After wizards disappeared, the appearance of a new wizard would be tremendously valuable. However, Scion won't be able to accept any offer from noble families, and even from the Imperial family, because the real wizard making the magical tools is not Scion, but her! She's really a strategic woman. I totally love her. That afternoon, Bernard Seijin, the current head of the Seijin family, receives news that a descendant of their family is gifted with magic and owns a magical shop. But Bernard is quite suspicious about the appearance of this, so he tells his butler to investigate further about Scion. If someone is using this to commit fraud, he will need to rectify it as the head of the Seijin family. As Sienna becomes frustrated at nobles who want Helga to marry off someone to avoid causing problems such as love quarrels, she notices that her lady always eats a strawberry frappe during this time of year. Helga just laughs and tells her that she just feels like eating it. Oh, you can fool Sienna, but not us, Helga. We know that it's the frappe Rohan ordered for you. Meanwhile, in the capital, Scion struggles to pick an ornament since everything suits her. At the same time, Delight notices him, but she gets uninterested right away just because of his appearance. Well, judging by his outfit, he doesn't seem to be from the capital. However, after some time, she bought a hat and gave it to her servant. She said that she just dropped by some store to buy something, but since it's not suitable enough, she won't be using it again. Shortly after, Delight visits Rosette to give her a pair of earrings she bought from the store. Rosette, on the other hand, feels so happy about such a gift. Looking around, Delight notices that the mansion isn't that bad. However, the decorations are kind of dull, like someone just became wealthy and bought everything that they like. It would be insufficient as a gift for Helga in its current state, so when she takes over the mansion, she'll have to redecorate it. If Rosette hadn't coveted Helga's position, she wouldn't have gone this far. She's even trying to become Rohan's concubine, huh? Another crazy woman who thinks that things will just go well because she's an airhead. Rosette then exclaims that her father wants to make a contribution to Reinhold, thinking that it would be useful to greatly aid Rohan someday. More than that, she honestly tells her that Hyllian is not fit for such a position, and that Delight is superior to Helga, boldly speaking that the position of Crown Princess will soon belong to Delight. She then gives Delight a valuable necklace in exchange for not forgetting her in the future. She wants to have the honor of assisting Rohan, even if it's just by a little. How can this woman be so vulgar? Delight smiles and expresses her gratitude, only to throw the present away when she leaves the mansion. Also, she instructs her servant to buy every promissory note issued by Rosette's family that is currently on the market. Since she dares to covet that which she shouldn't, it is time for her to pay the price. While Scion is still roaming around in the capital, Bernard sees him, and if he really is a wizard, he can raise the ducal family's status and power that is slowly dying out. When Scion returns to Solarian, he brings out a box with a bracelet inside. He thought of Helga as he bought it, so when he puts it around her wrist, he can't help but be mesmerized by how good it looks on her. As for the land, he liked it the best, but it has a status restriction. It means that they'll need a sponsor if they want to buy it. Just then, Scion remembers Mr. Jonathan Felitte as their sponsor. The thing is, Helga already knew that it would be the case. However, she wants to send Scion off to the capital to draw more attention. The Salamio in the capital should commence with public interest so that her return can be more spectacular. The more spectacular it is, the clearer Yttri's downfall will be. She will definitely watch how the Yttri, which her mother treasured so much, fall apart. And so she goes to Mr. Jonathan's office only to find him in the middle of a meeting. The way she stares sends a chill down their spine, so they decide to leave immediately. Even Mr. Jonathan is sweating from her sudden visit. Earlier, they had a meeting about the number of diamonds found in the mine. Helga interrupts and tells him not to explain everything. White lies don't work on her. That's why she's the best at criticizing people. There's a pause in the conversation before Mr. Jonathan reveals the truth that they were talking about a secret of their merchants' guild. Helga apologizes for coming without letting him know first. Mr. Jonathan didn't mind that, so for Helga's intention of coming, she wants to ask for a single favor from him. Given the fact that Mr. Jonathan is heir to the northern noble family of Felitte, she asks him if he could endorse them in acquiring good land in the capital. Though Mr. Jonathan had been acting weird earlier, he doesn't have any problem with her request. However, he's quite curious about the reason why they're moving to the capital sooner than expected. Helga laughs, saying that she doesn't know why Scion planned it this way. First, they must prepare methodically. She almost slipped up when she told him that she'd like to do it all properly, from start to finish. Backing it up, she exclaims that this is also the boss's wish. Mr. Jonathan will gladly accompany them to the capital. After all, Salamio is the store he trusts and has invested in. And what's more, she's already working hard to fulfill the contract, so there's no reason for him not to be kind. Just like that, Helga takes her leave, leaving Mr. Jonathan with his hand on his chest. Just standing face to face with Helga feels as if his life was shortened by 10 years. Meanwhile, Rohan knows for a fact that his father has built a mansion to commemorate his achievements and victory. Also, he is aware that his father is trying to step down from the throne while he's still alive so that no one can threaten his son's position. But once he ascends to the seat of the emperor, his actions will be restricted and he won't be able to go out, secretly observing Helga from afar. At least, until she returns, he should continue to hold out. He then opens a box with a ring embedded with a red stone. He really wants to give it to her. Once he finishes today's business, he will go see Helga in Solarian. If my man isn't acting like Rohan, then I'd rather not have one. Just kidding. The moment he steps out of the carriage, he clicks his tongue out of dismay. Among the crowd is Hyllian, the future crown princess. That is all to publicize Rohan's achievements while highlighting the harmonious image of the crown prince and future crown princess. Rohan sarcastically tells him that whoever did it seems to be cute beyond description. Warwick laughs and takes it as a compliment, though it's not. As for the ring, Warwick assumes that it has been prepared as a present for their engagement anniversary. Rohan quickly corrects his assumptions. He only prepares it in order to become a romantic mind, with Helga in mind, of course. Oh, how to be you, Helga. Warwick frantically asks if Rohan wants to take Helga as his concubine. Rohan grabs his neck collar and tells him to think more creatively, or else things that aren't supposed to happen will happen. Suddenly, Hyllian bows in front of Rohan and greets him. He then extends his hand to hers, asking if she's ready for the performance. Hyllian takes his hand, her eyes screaming objection and disapproval of her place that should be for her sister. Hyllian is such a loyal sister, because how could she resist that handsome face in front of her? But in Rohan's mind, once he finishes this boring act, he will quickly join Helga by her side. That night, Sienna tells her lady to buy a new pair of shoes because it has gotten smaller and it's uncomfortable to wear. Helga tells her not to worry because she can just patch the leather at the back to expand it. Even though it's a lingering attachment and a strange obsession, these shoes are the only pair in the world made just for her. Now, they'll become things that only remain as a memory. Little does she know, from a distance, Rohan continuously watches over her. Seeing how she wears the shoes that he gave to her, he feels relieved that Helga hasn't forgotten him yet. Along with the ring, he'll have to prepare new shoes as gifts for her return. He's a man of his word. No matter how busy things are in the capital, he still finds time to see her. Meanwhile, Delight is perfectly doing her part as well. Rosette still spouts nonsense about how rumors circulated that Delight is much more suitable for Rohan and that she will end up as his concubine. To make things worse, Rosette boldly announces to everyone that Helga will never come back given how the Yttris have fallen this far. She claims that it'd be best to prepare in advance the most precious chrysanthemums in the Empire, hinting that Helga's possible death and funeral rite. Seriously? This woman is getting out of hand. Delight seems calm about it, but in her mind, she's even more enraged about how she speaks of Helga without knowing what she means to her. When Delight was in such a bad situation, Helga was there to stay by her side and help her, so coveting Helga's seat is such a rubbish thing to say. She then asks Rosette to go inside the room to talk about something. There, Rosette presents the diamonds as a gift to Delight. After all, Delight was the one who told her about the newly discovered diamond mine the other day. Right, she has earned the Gropius family's complete trust. By the Kadrian name, she swears she'll make Rosette bow her head in front of Helga, who will proudly return without fail, so that Helga, her savior, will be delighted. Girl, you are the best of the best Helga could ever have. On a fine day, the Countess of Kinderlin exhales a deep sigh, frustration etched across her face. She feels an urgent need to bring Helga, posing as Hyllian, into her service as a maid, ensuring she debuts in high society and eventually finds a suitable match. Without hesitation, she pens a formal request, sending a letter straight to Hyllian. Later that day, Salamio echoes with Sienna's frantic voice, warning Hyllian that someone is outside. Fear grips her. Could they be from Kinderlin? But Hyllian remains unfazed, reassuring Sienna with a calm smile. There's no need to worry. No one will uncover her true identity so easily. Descending the stairs, Hyllian greets the Kinderlin messenger with practiced grace, radiating hospitality. Behind her, Sienna and Sion put on quite the spectacle, sniffling and blowing their noses theatrically in an attempt to intimidate the poor messenger. Hyllian smirks, immediately catching on to their antics. She accepts the Countess's letter and with poised confidence agrees to the request. The conversation flows smoothly despite Sienna and Sion's persistent efforts to be a nuisance. One can almost picture them making ridiculous faces behind Hyllian's back, ready to shoo the messenger away at any moment. As the dust settles, the shop door creaks open, revealing a cloaked figure. Sion greets him with familiarity, recognizing him as a regular. The man's gaze sweeps across the room, his ears catching snippets of a lively conversation. One name lingers in the air, Hyllian, and the townsfolk chatter excitedly about her possible marriage, a scheme orchestrated by the Countess of Kinderland. A storm brews in the man's chest, his fist clenching involuntarily. That marriage will never happen. He knows it, but the thought alone unsettles him, darkening his mood. Sion, sensing the tension, shifts uncomfortably, unsure what to say. The mysterious man steps out of the shop, his mind consumed with the thoughts of Kinderland's growing influence. He understands the weight they hold in the grand scheme of things, and how their power could soon become even greater. As he moves through a dimly lit alley, he meets Terramon, his loyal servant. With a measured tone, he inquires about Terramon's latest task regarding Wolfgang. The servant responds with quiet confidence. Mission accomplished. Satisfied, the mysterious man entrusts Helga's safety to Terramon, declaring that he has a far more pressing duty to attend to, safeguarding a rare and precious jewel, Helga herself. Meanwhile, Helga, still posing as Hyllian, arrives at the Kinderland mansion, much to the delight of the Countess. Their exchange is filled with practiced grace before they settle into conversation. Wasting no time, the Countess reveals her true purpose for summoning Hyllian. She wants her to become her personal maid, a position of privilege in Solarian society. Though Hyllian acknowledges the honor, she declines with gentle resolve, harboring a plan of her own. The refusal unsettles the Countess, but before displeasure can set in, Hyllian swiftly steers the conversation in a new direction. Instead of serving as a maid, Hyllian proposes something far more intriguing. She wants the Countess to become her guardian. The Countess, taken aback, demands a compelling reason. Hyllian leans in, her voice steady, her words precise. She will help the Countess solve her greatest dilemma, the scandal of her son, the heir to Count Kinderland, and his love affair with a Solarian woman who has a child of her own. What exactly is Hyllian planning? A game of strategy is unfolding, and something is most certainly brewing. The morning sun streams through the windows as Sion cautiously approaches Helga, still posing as Hyllian, in her office, his face clouded with concern. He anxiously asks about her recent visit to Solarian, but instead of answering seriously, Hyllian decides to tease him. With a playful glint in her eyes, she nonchalantly mentions that the Countess wants her as a maid, and even suggests that it might not be such a bad idea, especially since the Countess is keen on marrying her off to a Solarian man. The words hit Sion like a thunderbolt. His breath catches, and his entire being recoils at the mere thought. Hyllian, enjoying his reaction, leans in and asks why he is so opposed to the idea. Flustered, Sion scrambles for every excuse he can think of, listing reason after reason, until he can't hold back any longer. In a burst of exasperation, he blurts out the truth. She should marry him instead! Oh, Sion really went for it this time! Before Hyllian can respond, the moment is shattered by the arrival of Sienna, who storms into the room, clearly fuming. The air crackles with tension between the two S's, Sion and Sienna. Ha! What's brewing between these two? Hyllian quickly shifts back into business mode, her smirk returning. She assigns Sienna a task, a plan already forming in her mind. Meanwhile, in the Grand Cadria mansion, Rosette kneels before Delight, her voice trembling as she pleads for financial help. Their family's debts weigh heavily on her, and she clings to a desperate hope that Delight will lend her some money. But Delight wastes no time crushing that hope. With a sharp and unapologetic tone, she makes it clear Rosette won't be getting a single cent. Rosette wails dramatically, but her cries do nothing to soften Delight's heart. Instead, Delight remains steadfast, determined to punish Rosette for her loose tongue. After all, Rosette once dared to speak ill of Helga, someone Delight holds dear. And honestly, this moment between Delight and Helga's sisterhood is downright heartwarming. Delight takes her vengeance a step further, ensuring Rosette is thoroughly humiliated in front of an audience. With a victorious smirk, she strides out of the room, leaving Rosette drowning in shame. Now that is what you call sweet, calculated payback. Sion stands before Helga, still in her guise as Hyllian, his nervous energy almost palpable. She watches him with patient encouragement, urging him forward on his journey with Mr. Jonathan to handle their business affairs. Sienna, however, isn't nearly as forgiving. She shoots Sion a glare, visibly exasperated by his lack of confidence. But before the tension can thicken, Hyllian steps in, her words a soothing balm. She reassures Sion, lifting his spirits with quiet strength. In the end, Sion musters the courage to bid farewell. With one final look at Hyllian and Sienna, he departs, though not entirely of his own will. Mr. Jonathan playfully drags him away. Watching them go, Hyllian can't help but smile. These three, Hyllian, Sion, and Sienna, may bicker endlessly, but the bond they share is something truly special. Once the farewell fades into the distance, Sienna turns to Hyllian, announcing that she's completed her task. A spark of delight flashes in Hyllian's eyes. With that settled, it's time to set her next plan into motion. Meanwhile, elsewhere, whispers ripple through a quiet room. Rumors of a widow's extravagant spending, all mysteriously linked to Kinderland. Later that afternoon, Hyllian indulges in a quiet moment at a cafe. As she flips through a magazine, her gaze halts at a striking headline. Rosette Gropius, publicly punished in the name of Helga. The realization sinks in, her chest tightening with emotion. There is only one person who could have orchestrated this. Delight. Memories rush back, warm and vivid, of the promises they once exchanged. Even after years of silence, Delight has remained true to her word. Tears prick Hyllian's eyes. The weight of this silent loyalty fuels her determination. She will see her plan through. She'll return to the capital, for herself and for Delight. But before destiny can unfold, the stage must be set. The shop door swings open, and in steps a breathtaking woman, her beauty impossible to ignore. Every head turns. Her name is Juliana, the Solarian woman who captured Panny and Kinderland's heart. Now a widow, she stands with quiet grace, her 2-year-old son left fatherless. Then a furious voice suddenly shatters the air. A man storms into the shop, his face contorted with anger, his voice frantically calling Juliana's name. Tension crackles like a brewing storm, and just as the situation teeters on chaos, another figure arrives. Panny and Kinderland. He steps into the shop, oblivious to the thickening drama, a bouquet of flowers clutched in his hand. Oh no, this is about to get messy. What chaos is about to unfold? Helga, still in her guise as Hyllian, watches the scene unfold, her smirk widening in amusement. The tension crackles between Juliana, Benjamin, the furious man, and Pannion, each tangled in a storm of emotions. Benjamin wastes no time. He seizes Juliana's arm, his grip tight with desperation. His voice trembles with grief as he accuses her of running away with the money meant for his late mother. His sorrow spills over, raw and unfiltered, as he blames Juliana for his mother's death. But Juliana meets his accusations with nothing but fire. Rage flashes in her eyes as she spits out her truth. She refuses to spend her life trapped in poverty. She is meant for finer things. She will become a lady no matter what it takes. Benjamin, however, isn't done. He demands to take the boy back, but Juliana, unwavering, fiercely declares that her son belongs with her. And through it all, Pannion stands frozen, witnessing every word, every accusation, every wound laid bare. But Juliana, consumed by her own anger, doesn't even realize he's there. She delivers the final blow without hesitation. Her love has only ever been for money. A sharp silence cuts through the air. Pannion's voice finally breaks it, calling Juliana's name, soft, almost pleading. The sound of it sends a shiver through her, like ice seeping into her bones. She turns, her confidence cracking as she meets his devastated gaze. For all her ambitions, for all her schemes, there is one truth that cannot be ignored. Users never truly win in the end. In the grand halls of the palace, the crown prince stands tall before a towering window, his gaze lost in thought. A rare smile tugs at his lips as his mind drifts to one person, his precious Helga. Soon after, he makes his way to the Kinderland residence, seeking an audience with the countess. His request is no small matter. He needs a favor, one significant enough to bring him there personally. But what could it be? Later that day, the crown prince welcomes Delight, his eyes glinting with amusement as he commends her for handling Rosette's downfall so masterfully. But his mind is already on the next move. With a mischievous smirk, he pitches an idea. An elaborate play, one that will feature none other than Rosette and Helga. Afterwards, outside the confiscated Gropius estate, Viscount Gropius and Rosette stand in silent disgrace, the weight of humiliation pressing down on them. Rosette, shaking with rage, vows revenge on those responsible for their downfall. But before she can scheme her next move, fate plays a cruel trick on her. Just as the Crown Prince's fun play begins to unfold, Rosette catches sight of a striking figure. Hyllian, disguised as Helga, walking with the knight Hyllian. The sight is enough to make her blood run cold. The real Helga Yttri, back for vengeance? A chill races down her spine, and without hesitation, she grabs her father's arm, urging him to flee. Inside the carriage, Hyllian joins Delight, who is already grinning at the success of their deception. She applauds Hyllian's flawless performance as Helga. Hyllian then removes the shimmering bracelet from her wrist, handing it to Delight with curiosity. The illusion it cast, the knightly figure at her side, was so vivid that even Rosette was fooled. What magic does it hold? Delight explains that the bracelet is enchanted, capable of creating illusions. It was this very magic that brought their deception to life, making Rosette truly believe that Helga had returned. As a reward, Delight gifts the bracelet to Hyllian, giving her the choice to return it to the shop where it was originally sold or keep it. But here's the twist. The shop is run by none other than the real Helga herself. With a playful glint in her eyes, Delight announces that Helga's return to the capital may be closer than they think. Hyllian clutches the bracelet tightly, her fingers trembling as tears well up in her eyes. The weight of the moment settles deep in her heart, an honor she never expected. Oh, Hyllian, what a sweet, kind soul! Helga, still under the guise of Hyllian, stands beside Sienna, their eyes fixed on the mountain of gifts that have arrived for her. As Hyllian picks up a letter attached to one of the packages, her expression twists in shock. The sender? None other than Panyan Kinderland. Sienna naturally erupts in a fit of frantic exclamations, her distress almost theatrical. Though Hyllian has little fondness for Panyan's persistence, she chooses diplomacy over personal feelings. With a composed smile, she pens a reply, expressing her gratitude while maintaining the amicable ties she has with the Kinderland family. A smart move. Good thing Sion isn't around to witness this. He would have thrown a fit on the spot, whining about it for hours. Speaking of Sion, miles away in the capital, Sion struggles with the heavy burden of serious business matters. Every decision, every negotiation feels twice as difficult without Hyllian by his side. His longing for her guidance is almost comical. How adorable can this man get? Meanwhile, the real estate agent introduces Sion and Mr. Jonathan to Bana Duke Sajin, the owner of the land they've been eyeing. Duke Sajin wastes no time sharing his grand visions for the property, his words smooth and strategic. Then he delivers an unexpected proposition. Through his research, he has uncovered something shocking. It turns out Sion is a descendant of the Sajin family. And with that knowledge, he extends a tempting offer. If Sion agrees to return to the clan, the land will be his, free of charge, as a gesture of welcome. Too good to be true. Something about this feels suspicious. Mr. Jonathan's words strike fear into Duke Sajin, his composure faltering. When he cautiously asks for clarification, Mr. Jonathan offers only a cryptic response. He is backed by someone far more powerful than the Duke, the Imperial family. Realization dawns, leaving Duke Sajin frozen. Mr. Jonathan ends the conversation with a warning. This discussion must never be spoken of again. As they leave, Sion marvels at Mr. Jonathan's ability to sway the Duke. But Jonathan brushes off the praise, reminding Simon of the promise he intends to keep, to protect Hyllian and Sion at all costs. He then urges Sion to keep this encounter a secret from Hyllian, not wanting to burden her with unnecessary worries. Sion agrees without hesitation. Before parting, Mr. Jonathan offers one last piece of advice. Sion must be cautious around nobles. Not everyone is trustworthy, and they must do whatever it takes to keep Hyllian safe. Sion vows to uphold that duty. Meanwhile, Helga, still posing as Hyllian, strolls through the city with Sienna when Panyan Kinderland disrupts their peace, gripping her arm instantly. How improper! A sudden commotion shifts their attention. A cloaked man argues with a vendor, but Panyan remains relentless, pleading for a moment of her time. Hyllian, despite her disgust, seizes the chance to manipulate the Kinderland family. She flashes a radiant smile and agrees. Helga, still posing as Hyllian, reluctantly sips tea across from Panyan in a coffee house, her patience wearing thin with each passing minute. The setting feels strange. She's never shared such a moment with a man before, except for Rohan, the enigmatic cloaked figure. Unintentionally, she compares the two. Rohan exudes an air of elegance and mystery, while Panion is simply an earnest, naive young man. If not for the Kinderlin-owned land, Hyllian would never endure this conversation. Yet she must. She subtly discourages Panion's advances, but his oblivious nature prevents him from catching on. Instead, he eagerly suggests they become friends. Resigned, Hyllian plays along, though her mind drifts to her true priority, finding the magic tool with Sienna. From a distance, Rohan watches, growing frustrated. Hyllian's kindness and beauty attract too much attention, making his task of protecting her all the more difficult. As he broods over this, Teramon approaches, inquiring about his thoughts. Rohan smirks, musing on ways to reprimand someone, just as Hyllian and Panion step out of the coffee house, exchanging farewells. Yet beneath his casual demeanor, Rohan's mind is fixed on a far greater concern: Yttrid's role in the unfolding scheme. One misstep and Hyllian's true identity could be exposed. Meanwhile, in the capital, Mr. Jonathan and Scion stand before the towering gates of Duchess Yttrid's estate. In the grand halls of the Yttrid mansion, an air of tension fills the space as the Duchess, Mr. Jonathan, and Scion settle into a formal meeting. The mansion's eerie quietness, its stoic servants, and the Duchess's commanding presence make it clear. This is no ordinary conversation. Without hesitation, the Duchess gets straight to the point. She is proposing a marriage between her eldest daughter Helga and Scion. Before Scion can even process the shock, Mr. Jonathan's firm opposition cuts through the room, leaving no room for argument. Later, Scion returns home beaming, arms full of gifts for Helga, still disguised as Hyllian. He has come back to celebrate her birthday, and her warm smile as she pats his head is enough to make his trip worthwhile. Among the gifts, Scion presents his most thoughtful one yet, a thick parchment that immediately brings joy to Hyllian's face. As they dine at a restaurant, Scion senses a shift in the atmosphere. Sienna explains that Panion once humiliated the owner's son in public, revealing a side of him that few know. In the same breath, she accidentally spills another truth. Panion's flirtations towards Hyllian are more than harmless fun. This, coupled with the Duchess's marriage proposal, sends Scion reeling. Unbeknownst to them, Rohan watches from the shadows, alongside Hermes, Mr. Jonathan's true identity and Rohan's loyal servant. What revelations lie ahead? As they settle into the restaurant, Scion casually mentions to Helga, still disguised as Hyllian, that Mr. Jonathan was the one who resolved the matter with Duchess Yttrid. He notes the Duchess's somber expression as they left, hinting that the discussion did not end in her favor. Hyllian listens, her thoughts elsewhere, but Scion remains oblivious to the storm brewing in her mind. Meanwhile, a sulking Rohan lingers nearby, yearning for even the slightest glance from Helga. His frustration is almost comical. How adorable! Yet beneath his usual aloofness, a flicker of longing remains. Before leaving, he pats Hermes, Mr. Jonathan's true identity, on the shoulder, reminding him to report everything down to the smallest detail. Outside, Rohan meets with Teramon and demands an update. The news is grim. Wolfgang has escaped the Devil's Lair. His mood sours instantly, but amidst the frustration, a soft smile tugs at his lips. He recalls the birthday gift he secretly sent to his one and only Helga. 2 years later, change looms on the horizon. The Emperor's old age signals an inevitable shift. The Crown Prince must prepare to take the throne, but for that, he needs a Crown Princess. He summons Teramon and Jonathan to discuss Solamio's relocation to the capital, a move that ensures Helga's return. Deep down, he can't wait for her to finally come back to him. The long-awaited reunion is near. The men gather to discuss Helga's, as Hyllian, long-awaited return to the capital. As Hyllian departs Solarian, the Countess of Kinderland expresses deep gratitude for all she has done for their family, especially for keeping Panion in check. As the Countess's carriage disappears into the distance, Hyllian tilts her head upward, allowing herself a moment to reminisce. Though her time living as Hyllian was merely a facade, she cannot deny the warmth of the memories she created. Meanwhile, Delight is just as thrilled as the Crown Prince, eagerly anticipating both Helga's return and the grand opening of Solamio in the capital. Later that day, the Crown Prince enjoys a rare moment of solitude, until Dahlia Romay enters, asking to sit across from him. Without hesitation, he rejects her request. In that instant, reality sinks in for Dahlia. Helga remains the only woman in the Crown Prince's eyes. A man untouched by fleeting affections? How admirable! With Helga's return drawing near, the anticipation builds. What will unfold when she finally steps back into the capital? The tension, the reunions, the long-awaited revelations? Can't wait! A new day dawns as the true Helga returns to the capital, ready for a fresh start. A time of redemption. She steps into Solamia, where Sion and Sienna greet her with uncontainable excitement. The entire team revels in their hard-earned victory, having brought their dream to life in the heart of the city. Among them is Mr. Jonathan, ever the silent force behind their success, still disguising himself as their benefactor. Sion, overwhelmed with gratitude, expresses his heartfelt appreciation for Helga's unwavering trust in him. Yet beneath the celebrations, Helga's fire burns brighter than ever. Memories of the past resurface. The Duchess of Yttri's cruel words and the years of manipulation that made her feel unworthy simply because she lacked noble blood. But those days are over. She will reclaim everything that was taken from her, proving to the world that true worth comes from ability, not lineage. Queen and girl boss behavior right there. Meanwhile, in Yttri Mansion, the Duchess watches with regret as news of Solamio's pre-opening sweeps through the capital, drawing immense attention. If only Mr. Jonathan hadn't sabotaged her plans back then. Her bitter thoughts are cut short when Hyllian enters, making her startle in surprise. Hyllian rarely visits. Without pleasantries, she takes the invitation to Solamio's grand opening banquet. Just as she turns to leave, the Duchess mentions Wolfgang's return from the Devil's Lair. But Hyllian's response cuts deep. Her sharp words slice through the air, condemning the Duchess for ruining Helga's life. Trembling, the Duchess clenches her fist, drowning in regret. As the grand opening banquet of Solamio draws near, Sion finds himself in a dilemma, choosing the perfect dress for Helga. But before he can make a decision, an unexpected visitor arrives. A cloaked figure steps inside. It's Terramon. Fear grips Sion as he notices the ominous men accompanying Terramon. Sienna's warning about the dangers of the capital flashes through his mind. Trying to mask his unease, he casually asks about the visit, but Terramon wastes no time. He's here for Helga. Despite his fear, Sion's protective instincts take over. In a bold, desperate move, he declares himself as Helga's husband, hoping to deter Terramon. But the knight is far from amused. With a deadly glare, he unsheaths his sword. Bad move, Sion. Very bad move. As the cold steel presses against Sion's neck, the commotion reaches Helga. Stepping out with a stoic expression, she meets Terramon's gaze, instantly recognizing him as Rohan's man. Without hesitation, he demands the truth. Is Sion really her husband? Helga takes a moment to assess the situation. Testing Terramon's reaction, she decides to play along. Yes, she confirms, Sion is her husband. The response sends Terramon into a silent rage as he hurls his sword past a trembling Sion, whose knees nearly give out. To ease the tension, Helga calmly asks the true purpose of Terramon's visit. His answer changes everything. He bears a message. The Crown Prince Rohan wishes to meet her in person. At last, the long-awaited reunion is near! The mere mention of Rohan's name stirs something deep within Helga, so he hasn't forgotten her after all. With a soft smile, she masks the whirlwind inside and agrees to meet the Crown Prince. Sion watches everything unfold, his eyes drifting to Terramon. Though the knight's face remains cold and unreadable, there is something unmistakable in his gaze, an unspoken concern and affection toward Helga. Later that afternoon, Helga finds Sion scrubbing the shop with unusual focus. She knows the encounter with Terramon rattled him. Hoping to lift his spirits, she playfully teases him about his wobbly knees. It works. Sion finally smiles, and warmth spreads through Helga's chest. She studies him for a moment before asking why he hasn't said a word about what happened. He is curious about a lot of things, but he respects her boundaries enough not to pry. He recalls the day Helga first arrived in Solarian, shrouded in vicious rumors. But he never believed them. He chose to see the Helga he had come to know and trust. The sincerity in his words tugs at her heart, and she realizes how little she truly knows about him. With a mischievous grin, she teases him about his true feelings, sending Sion into full survival mode. His face flushes red, and Helga laughs, utterly amused. Their playful banter is cut short by an overwhelming presence. As if on cue, they both turn toward the entrance. Standing there, in the flesh, is Rohan. The long-awaited reunion is finally here! Helga stands frozen as Rohan materializes before her. His presence stirs something deep within her, something she cannot quite name. She quickly regains her composure, asking how he has been and admitting that not properly saying farewell back then had haunted her for a long time. Rohan only smiles before turning to Sion, who watches the reunion with a mix of emotions. His voice is calm but laced with something dangerous as he asks if Sion is truly Helga's husband. A chill runs down Sion's spine, but Rohan pleads for honesty, confessing that his mind unravels when it comes to Helga. Helga stands in bewilderment, and then it clicks. The years of unwavering devotion, the way he waited. Rohan has always harbored feelings for her. Oh, thump thump, thump thump. Memories rush in like a whirlwind. She recalls their younger days, the time she cried before the crown prince, his soothing words always there to comfort her. Back then, she felt guilty for resenting her mother, but looking at Rohan now, she wonders, had she been cruel all along for disregarding him? Rohan gently takes her arm, asking again about her relationship with Sion. With a steady voice, Helga admits that she lied to Taramon. With a smirk, Rohan assures her that he knows everything, from what she thinks he doesn't know to even her own thoughts at this moment. Then he reveals his true reason for coming. He wants to be her escort to Solemio's grand opening banquet. Doubts cloud Helga's mind, but Rohan's encouragement shifts her perspective. His presence will attract attention. Perhaps that wouldn't be so bad. With a small smile, she agrees and Rohan bends, pressing a kiss to her hand in gratitude. Meanwhile, Sion watches in silence, his head low and his fists clenched. No, Sion. Rohan departs from Solemio, with Helga and Sion gazing at him as he disappears from sight. After a long silence, Sion gently asks what just happened. Helga, with a steady breath, confesses that her real name is Helga, not Hyllian as what he had always believed. But Sion takes it in stride, brushing it off as if names hold no real weight. His easy acceptance brings unexpected comfort to Helga. Sion sees her for who she truly is, beyond names and pasts. But Sion wonders if Rohan is someone dangerous. Helga, without hesitation, answers that he is the only person she has ever known who isn't. Sion smiles at her response, but one question remains. Who exactly is Rohan to her? He recalls the countless times he has seen Helga lost in thought, wearing that same expression, a longing mixed with regret. As if on cue, that night, Helga sits alone by the window, her face illuminated by the moonlight, lost in memories of Rohan. She remembers their first meeting, how as a child she forced herself to smile through sickness just to earn the Duchess's favor. At a gathering, she attempted to socialize, only to cross paths with a woman whose horrified reaction set the entire room abuzz. The woman was the Duke's mistress. Whispers swirled, scandal erupted, and before Helga knew it, the Duchess had dragged her away, slapping her in fury. Young and terrified, she sobbed until Rohan found her. Now in the present, tangled in emotions, Helga knows one thing. So long as she isn't in Yttri, the imperial family will never truly accept her. But in her mind, that doesn't matter. She smiles, pushing the thoughts aside. Her goal remains unchanged, to build a name of her own, one no one can take away. That's the spirit! The day of the banquet arrives and Rohan wastes no time making his presence known. He assigns maids to assist Helga, ensuring she's cared for and prepared. Excitement buzzes in the air. Helga turns to Sienna, asking about Sion's whereabouts. Today is a big day for him too. She suspects Duke Sajin might make another attempt to bring him back to the family. If things go well, Sion could one day become the next master of the Sajin household. Snapping out of her thoughts, Helga requests Sienna to carry out a task, and Sienna eagerly agrees. As the moment nears, Rohan stands tall beside an elegant carriage, a bouquet of exquisite flowers resting in his hands as he waits for whom they are meant for. Helga strides toward him, radiating grace and poise. Their eyes meet, and for a brief moment, time slows. Rohan offers the bouquet, a birthday gift. Inside the carriage, he gently takes her hand, his touch light yet deliberate. Helga stills. There's only one person who knows her fingertips so intimately, who notices the faint cracks from her relentless work. Rohan. He asks about her life in Solarian. She tells him it wasn't so bad. She had freedom, the kind that allowed her to build Solemio into what it is today. When Rohan mentions the sea, she realizes she never had time to admire it. She was too busy. Still, she finally recalls the taste of its bounty, seafood, fresh and abundant. Rohan watches her, captivated by her genuine smile. He vows to take her back to Solarian to show her its beauty. His words reach her heart, but Helga knows better. Getting too close to him could ruin everything. After all, she has a goal, to gain enough power to crush the Yttri family. Even though it pains her, she vows to keep her distance from Rohan. But love has a way of unraveling even the most carefully laid plans, doesn't it? On the long-awaited night of Solemio's grand opening banquet, nobles fill the grand hall, their voices a symphony of praise for the breathtaking ceremony. Anticipation builds as everyone waits for the true star of the evening, the elusive owner of Solemio. As if answering their silent calls, Helga and Rohan step through the entrance, side by side, radiating elegance and power. A stunned hush falls over the crowd. Helga has returned, and she is here to reclaim everything that was once hers. To affirm her presence, Helga lifts a hand, and in an instant, ethereal spirits dance through the air, illuminating the hall with dazzling magic. Gasps ripple through the crowd, their faces frozen in awe. Even Rohan watches captivated. But when Helga turns to him, she notices something strange. He isn't surprised. Instead, he simply smiles and reminds her that he has always known everything about her. Then, as Helga's gaze sweeps across the hall, she locks eyes with Hyllian and the Duchess of Yttri. The Duchess's grim expression sends a wave of satisfaction through her. Meanwhile, from the shadows, Delight watches Helga's radiant smile. She must speak with her, but first, she needs leverage. Her gaze lands on Sion, who has just entered with Sienna. Perfect. Moments later, Helga steps outside, overwhelmed by the evening's events. Rohan follows, offering silent comfort as he asks what's on her mind. Her answer is resolute. She will become the 4th Duke of Reinhold, but under her own name, Helga Zernes, the first head of the Yttri ducal family. But then, she says the words that shatter Rohan's heart. For this dream, she can never be his empress. Rohan falls silent, his sorrowful gaze lingering on the woman he loves. Oh no! Bathed in the moonlight, the knight bears witness to the silent heartbreak of the crown prince. Before he can utter a word, Sienna intervenes, informing Helga that Delight is looking for her, and that she has a hostage, Sion. Elsewhere, Sion sits trembling before Delight, struggling to understand why he's been dragged into this. Delight, ever calculating, seizes the moment, pressing him for details about Helga's life in Solarian. With a silly smile, she introduces herself as Helga's closest friend, leaving Sion with no choice but to speak. He recalls how Helga would smile around others, yet when alone, a quiet sadness clouded her face, like someone trapped in fear. The words strike a chord in Delight's heart. Before she can probe further, the door bursts open. Helga steps inside, her expression unreadable, and asks Sion to leave them in private. Left alone, Helga turns to Delight and calmly asks how she's been, her question igniting a storm. After all these years, is that all Helga has to say? Frustration spills over as Delight lashes out, her voice cracking with grief. Tears stream down her face as she pours out the agony of Helga's disappearance, the betrayal of a promise they once made, to stand by each other. How could Helga vanish as if their bond meant nothing? But then, all the pain, all the anger melts away in an instant when Helga pulls Delight into a tight embrace, whispering a heartfelt apology. The weight of being years apart crumbles between them as they sob into each other's shoulders, holding on to the warmth they thought they had lost. This friendship must be protected at all costs. On a bitter evening, the Duchess of Yttri seethes with rage, hurling everything in sight as her fury over Helga's return consumes her. But the worst blow is yet to come. Helga has become what the Empire's 3 ducal houses have coveted for generations: a wizard. Chaos churns in her mind. If this continues, it will mean the downfall of the Yttri family. Then a memory resurfaces, young Helga yearning for a mother's love. A sinister idea forms. She will exploit Helga's deepest longing to shatter her success. The next day, Teramon tries to coax the crown prince back to the imperial palace. Days have passed and his absence has left a mountain of unattended duties. But Rohan refuses, insisting he's on vacation. Teramon, however, knows this is impossible. Warwick has been relentless, demanding the prince's return. Left with no choice, Teramon plays his final card, Helga. If Rohan continues sulking, will Helga approve? Meanwhile, at Solemio, Helga discusses business with Sion, realizing how much she has overlooked while dwelling on her emotions for Rohan. But Sion, ever patient, has silently shouldered her responsibilities. To lighten the mood, Helga playfully teases him, suggesting his attentiveness stems from something more. Perhaps affection? I can imagine Sion blushing profusely. Their playful moment is interrupted when Rohan enters, catching them both off guard. Helga never expected him to return after her rejection. She then turns to Sion to give them privacy. When she asks Rohan why he's there, Rohan simply kneels before her and presents a gift. A stunning pair of shoes. Who could possibly remain unmoved by the Crown Prince's devotion? Rohan kneels before Helga, holding out his precious gift. A pair of exquisite shoes meant for the woman he adores. After all, they say good shoes take you to good places. But for Helga, allowing him into her life feels like inviting destruction for them both. Torn between reason and emotion, she looks down at Rohan, struggling with her decision. She insists once more that she cannot be his empress, that her path leads elsewhere. She tries to refuse the gift, but Rohan is undeterred. Despite the ache in his heart, he offers her a soft smile and tells her that he cannot simply ignore what he feels. He only asks for one thing: to let him do as he wishes, just as she is free to follow her own path. Helga gazes at him, realization dawning. He asks for nothing in return. His love is unconditional. With warmth creeping into her cheeks, she finally accepts the gift. Rohan gently slides the shoes onto her feet, and he can't help but smile. Those small feet have carried her through countless struggles, and now he hopes they will take her somewhere beautiful. Though Helga tries to resist, she cannot deny that Rohan's sincerity is chipping away at her walls. Can she truly cast aside the feelings growing within her? Later in the carriage, Sion's eyes linger on her new shoes. The memory of Rohan's devotion still in his mind. He has never seen Helga wear such a tender expression for anyone else. Across from him, Helga is lost in thought, remembering how Rohan makes her feel seen and heard. Her musings are cut short when Sion draws her attention to their arrival. She teases him playfully, drawing out a smile, but their lighthearted moment is interrupted by a familiar voice. Hyllian. Hyllian greets Helga with warmth, but Helga feels nothing of the sort. Just one glance at her is enough to reopen old wounds. Wounds filled with sorrow, pain, and a past she has never truly escaped. Hyllian is thrilled to see Helga again, but Helga has no desire for a heartfelt reunion. She instructs Hyllian to wait at a nearby coffee house, needing to attend to other matters first. Hyllian, ever eager to please, agrees without hesitation. Meanwhile, Sion watches the exchange with curiosity. The striking resemblance between the two women does not escape him. When Helga reveals they are sisters, Sion reacts giddily, praising their parents. But Helga's expression darkens. To her, nothing is more humiliating than being associated with Hyllian and the Duchess of Yttri. Later, the two sisters sit across from each other. Hyllian gazes at Helga with admiration, marveling at her elegance and poise. A wide, genuine smile spreads across her face, until Helga speaks. Her voice is cold, cutting through the warmth in an instant. She demands that Hyllian leave and never return, making it clear that they are not family. Hyllian flinches, barely able to utter Helga's name, but Helga does not waver. She believes that she stole Hyllian's life, a truth the Duchess drilled into her mind. Though Hyllian protests, the reality remains unchanged. The ducal family has already decided Hyllian is the victim and Helga the villain. To sever all ties is the only way forward. Tears well in Hyllian's eyes as she pleads, her voice trembling. She only wants to return what was taken from Helga and for her to come back. Helga sighs, not out of hatred but resolve. She refuses to be tied to the Yttrids ever again. As she steps outside, weakness overtakes her. Hyllian's tear-streaked face lingers in her thoughts. But she steels herself. Her only goal is to carve out her own name, free from the shadows of the past. Helga's coldness may be frustrating, but it's impossible to fault her for it. She's a product of her upbringing, one defined by neglect, manipulation, and a complete absence of genuine love. A bright new day dawns on Salemio, bringing a flood of positive reviews. Among the most praised innovations is their groundbreaking magic tool, designed for semi-permanent use. Sienna eagerly reads the glowing feedback aloud, while Helga sips her tea in quiet satisfaction. The entire team basks in the success of their venture, until fate intervenes. Sion presents Helga with an invitation from the Duchess of Yttri, shifting the atmosphere in an instant. But instead of reacting, Helga calmly asks about the toll gate in the capital, her focus unwavering. 2 nights later, the toll gate begins operations, and the city echoes with Delight's horrified complaints as she surveys Helga's modest living space. From the narrow living room to the barely functional bathroom, nothing escapes her critique. Sion watches the spectacle, reminding himself that Delight is supposedly Helga's dear friend, though at this moment, he has doubts. Earlier that day, Delight had attempted to apologize for their previous encounter, only for Sion to brush it off as unimportant. Seizing the opportunity, she mischievously asks him for a favor, to escort her to Helga's home. Now standing in Helga's space, Delight insists on seeing the bedroom, much to Sion's hesitation. Their bickering is abruptly cut short by Helga's arrival. Without wasting a moment, Delight takes Helga's hand and urges her to move into a grand mansion, fully furnished as a homecoming gift from herself, Rohan, and Hyllian. Sensing Helga's refusal, Delight plays her last card: tears. She pleads, claiming she cannot bear the guilt if Helga rejects their gift. But Helga, steadfast in her resolve, gently touches Delight's face and offers a genuine smile. She assures Delight that, even in their time apart, she has been a source of comfort. Whenever Helga felt lost, the mere thought of her dear friend brought her peace. And that, she says, is enough. She then reveals that she has returned all the money she once accepted from Delight and Rohan. The only reason she had withdrawn it in the first place was to let them know she was alive and well. Helga is unwavering in her decision. Her path should be forged on her own. Delight, though defeated, smiles with admiration. She praises Helga's strength, convinced that nothing can stand in the way of her determination. To have someone like Delight, a friend who cares so deeply, is truly a rare and priceless gift. As Helga and Delight exchange playful words, Duchess Yttri approaches, warmly greeting Helga and calling her daughter. Calling her daughter with that sweet smile? Ugh, the audacity! She also acknowledges Delight, pleased that she is celebrating Helga's success in opening a magic circle. Noticing Helga's discomfort, the Duchess suggests a private conversation at the dukedom. Although she hesitates, Helga agrees. Over tea, the Duchess apologizes for her past actions and reveals that Helga's name rightfully belongs to her, which she used to label as a fake daughter. She urges Helga to return home, but Helga firmly states that Solamio is her home. The Duchess struggles to hide her frustration, but ultimately admits her mistakes. Helga remains composed, urging her to move forward without regret. She then offers a red string, symbolizing a desire to cut ties. However, the Duchess refuses, insisting Helga will always be a Yttrid. Helga counters that the Yttrid name won't last forever. In desperation, the Duchess drops to her knees, pleading with Helga to leave their family. She reveals that Hyllian isn't suitable for the role of leading the family. Ma'am, you didn't care about Helga's worth before, but now she's your only option? The hypocrisy! Despite the emotional plea, Helga recalls how the Duchess once dismissed her worth. Helga declares that Yttrid means nothing to her. She coldly states the Duchess will have to wait for a response and leaves without looking back. Rohan orders Teramon to prepare a meal for the Emperor and monitor the nobles for rumors about his worsening health. He also instructs him to inspect any food or items brought to the Emperor. Before proceeding, Teramon reports troubling news. The Vikings, once a weak federation, have grown dangerous under a powerful leader. After seizing pirates and merging them into their territory, they soon began invading the Empire. Teramon recalls the past Viking invasions where Rohan's father led the navy to victory, and Rohan himself commanded the forces during the second invasion. Our boy's basically a living legend! Despite their triumph, Rohan doubts whether their security will sustain. He then orders Teramon to send investigators to monitor the Vikings closely. As Teramon is about to leave, Warwick rushes to Rohan with urgent news. Helga has returned a large sum of money Rohan has sent her over the past 4 years, leaving him visibly surprised. Meanwhile, Helga, who's reading a book, asks Happy if a truth-telling drug exists. She learns it only works with the other party's consent. Shortly after, a maid announces Rohan's visit, surprising Helga. She sends Happy away and allows Rohan in. To her surprise, Rohan asks to buy candy, and Helga agrees to assist and entertain him. Before that, she mentions the money she returned, expressing her desire to achieve Solamio on her own. She adds that with Duchess Yttri no longer supporting her, she is now unfit to be Empress. However, Rohan embraces her. He came to praise her efforts, not out of concern. He assures her that her letters never bothered him and asks her to promise one thing: to stay by his side. They seal the moment with a pinky promise, and Rohan then invites her to visit the toll booth with him. Helga and Rohan prepare to leave and are greeted by Sienna and Sion. Seeing them, Helga asks about the tollgate situation at the Sena and Solamio branches. In response, the maid reports that all 7 branches of the toll gates are in good condition. She adds that store managers from each branch are waiting at the toll gates, and a notice has been released to inspect and submit a report once the buildings are ready. She mentions that Helga only needs to complete the final steps, which Helga admits is challenging. To cheer her up, Rohan hands her the candy he bought earlier, beckoning her to eat up for her trip. After that, she prepares to depart alongside the elements, and soon enough, Helga casts her magic and vanishes. After 30 minutes, Helga still hasn't returned, making Sienna anxious. Suddenly, a light appears, signaling Helga's arrival. Rohan quickly catches her as she seemingly comes out of nowhere. She drops into Rohan's arms, and Helga suspects that her mana may have been drained, leading to her exhaustion. Helga then protests, insisting that Rohan put her down. Rohan ignores and carries her up the stairs, leaving Sion and Sienna behind. Seeing the two all lovey-dovey, Sion looks a bit distant, and Sienna asks him if he wants to go get drinks, an offer he doesn't decline. The next day, Helga wakes up feeling exhausted, likely due to the magic she used. As she opens her door, she is shocked to find Sion outside, looking like a wasted man. Sion appears like a soggy kitten. Seriously, what happened to this man? Muttering, Sion expresses his gratitude toward Helga, calling her his savior. But unexpectedly, tears stream down his eyes, and he apologizes for having feelings for her. Stunned, Helga doesn't know how to respond. Like clockwork, Sienna arrives, quickly dragging Sion away. When Sion regains his senses, Sienna hands him a drink to ease his hangover. She asks if he remembers what he did earlier, but Sion, having drunk heavily at the bar, has no recollection. Meanwhile, Helga and Delight discuss the successful launch of the toll gates. Helga then announces her decision to accept Utopia's upcoming invitation, intending to ask them to inspect the safety of the toll gates. Shifting the conversation, Helga comments on the abundance of food Delight prepared for her. She mentions her plan to rest, but Delight urges her to eat well, reminding her that the place is rented solely for her comfort. Girl, eat the food! World domination can wait! Carbs are calling! As they eat, they discuss Solamio's progress and the strange behavior of the aristocrats. Delight notes that the aristocratic faction supports Count Romiette, and is even pushing Lady Dahlia toward the crown prince. She also mentions the rumors surrounding the Emperor's declining health and the speculation that Lady Dahlia might be brought into the imperial family before Rohan takes the throne. Despite this, Delight asks that Rohan remains indifferent to Dahlia, unlike how he was when Hyllian was his fiancé. As Delight continues, Helga notices her mood changes. Delight admits her dislike for Dahlia, accusing her of copying Helga. She claims noblewomen, including Dahlia, have long imitated Helga's style, from clothing and jewelry to perfume and mannerisms. But Helga won't waste her time being upset over Dahlia. After all, foxes like Dahlia aren't a threat. Now that Helga, a skilled wizard and accomplished businesswoman, is back, such foxes will eventually return to their dens. The conversation then shifts to the Vikings' suspicious movements, with the Crown Prince closely monitoring them. Remembering something, Delight hands Helga an invitation to Noah's birthday, and Helga promises to attend. On the other hand, Dahlia burns invitations she deems worthless, keeping only the one from Duke Kadrian's youngest son. Knowing Helga will attend the event, likely accompanied by Rohan, Dahlia orders her maid to prepare her an extravagant ensemble. Girl, no amount of gold will make you the star! Before leaving, the maid reports that the Count of Kinderland has become a central aristocrat. This reminds Dahlia of Panian's anticipated arrival in the capital, sparking her hopes. The next day, Helga is frustrated to see her swollen face from overeating, especially with her visit to Utopia scheduled. She quickly instructs Susu to ask Sienna to adjust her plans, eager to open the toll gate soon. Priorities? Toll gate first, swollen cheeks later. While reading the newspaper, Helga finds an article about Sherry Gunford, now the youngest director of the Research Institute. Sherry credits Helga as one of her inspirations. Soon, a visitor arrives. It's Sherry. Sherry warmly hugs Helga, expressing how much she missed her. They exchange greetings, and Sherry mentions wanting to attend Solamio's toll gate opening but didn't have the chance to. As they chat, Helga praises Sherry's airship research. In response, Sherry brings up one of Helga's ideas, an airship hotel, curious as to when Helga plans to begin it. However, Helga avoids the topic, preferring to hear more about Sherry's current research. As Sherry excitedly explains, Helga interrupts, asking if a medical airship is possible. Sherry agrees, intrigued by the idea. She even suggests it could be a great venture for Helga's next business. When Sherry asks about its purpose, Helga responds that it's for a war. Girl, what? Helga, you just dropped the war bomb like it's a casual breakfast conversation. Helga anticipates a conflict between the Empire and the Vikings if the Emperor dies. prompting her to prepare in advance. Although Sherry is initially surprised and hesitant, she eventually agrees to help. She apologizes for the burden, but Sherry assures her, expressing her trust and gratitude for Helga's support in achieving her dreams. Yet, even after securing Sherry's help, Helga has another favor to ask and a truth she can no longer keep to herself. The next day, Sion is surprised to see a line of men outside Solamio, hoping to become Helga's partner. Sienna explains that the media's praise of Solamio likely caused the surge of suitors. Oh boy, Sion's day is not starting well. Someone get this man a stress ball stat! Feeling unworthy, Sion believes he has no right to propose to Helga, but his thoughts are interrupted when Duke Seijin arrives and requests a moment of his time. Over tea, the Duke questions Sion's reluctance to succeed the Seijin family, urging him to step out of Helga's shadow and build his own influence. Although Sion doubts himself, the Duke reminds him of his noble bloodline and suggests he consider the possibility. And so, Sion asks how he can prove himself. The Duke presents the Seijin heirloom, a magic scepter that grants non-mages a single spell. If the scepter responds to Sion, it will confirm his qualification as the successor. With uncertainty, Sion takes hold of the scepter and a bright light suddenly illuminates around. The Duke, filled with joy, declares that Sion is now his son as he successfully becomes a mage. Feels like he wins a lottery, from a businessman to a nobleman real quick. The Duke thanks Sion for his hard work and advises him to rest before his successor class starts. However, Sion insists on continuing his work at Solamio. At Solamio, Helga warmly greets Sion. She congratulates him on his decision and promises her unwavering support, no matter his path. Sion then gathers his courage to confess his feelings for Helga. However, Helga apologizes for not responding sooner to his confession. She figures that her delayed answer would be a way to maintain their usual relationship. The heartbreak! Can someone pass the tissues? Despite the rejection, Sion asks for nothing in return, only wanting her to stay by his side, which Helga also promises. The following day, Sienna appears anxious. She admits to Helga that she worries about Sion, fearing he may struggle in the social world. Helga reassures her of Sion's resilience and advises her to trust his choices. Then, Helga's concern is directed at Sienna, asking if she's resting enough. Despite her busy schedule, Sienna insists she's happy to help. As they pass a shop, Sienna spots elegant dresses and excitedly suggests that Helga try them on. Pure serotonin. She's already planning Helga's fashion debut like a true bestie. Later, they come across a noble carriage blocking a shop entrance. To Helga's shock, Panion steps out. While they talk, Helga expresses her surprise at Panion's unexpected visit, remarking that he could have simply contacted her. Panion responds that he wanted it to be a surprise, but Helga finds him immature and questions his reason for coming. He declares his wish to be her partner at Prince Kadrian's party, claiming to accept her identity and urging her to accept his invitation. Helga politely refuses, much to Panion's dismay. Sienna, frustrated by Panion's persistence, considers intervening when all of a sudden, Rohan arrives. Rohan, recognizing Panion as the Earl of Kirkland's son, states it's pointless since Helga is already his partner. Panion refuses to back down until Helga warns him to stop. Like, how many times does Helga have to say no? After Panion leaves, Helga thanks Rohan, who reveals that Sienna requested his help. When she apologizes for making him lie, Rohan expresses that he genuinely wants her as his partner, something that Helga agrees to. She's saying yes! Are we finally getting the Rohan-Helga moment we deserve? Later, Terramon questions Rohan's decision. He's engaged to Hyllian after all. Rohan remains unbothered. Anyway, their engagement will soon be dissolved. He then orders Terramon to gather the knights, preparing for Noah's grand celebration. The next day, Helga visits Utopia. Her presence instantly commands respect, making the Alliance bow their heads, recognizing her as a wizard in the Empire. The sheer power she exudes? Chills. She asks the Union leader about the item she requested in her letter, and he assures her it is ready to be loaded into her carriage upon her return. They enter the heart of the Demon Temple, a sacred place where the wizards of the first three families and the founding king make their resolutions. A place where even the imperial family cannot enter without permission. The elemental spirits, feeling excitement to be home, also invite Helga inside, claiming it is a great place. They instruct her to extend her hand toward their home. As she does, a warm, bright light bursts forth, so dazzling that ordinary people cannot bear to look at it. To her surprise, Helga finds herself stepping into the spirit world. A glowing orb of light floats before her, attempting to communicate. Eventually, she realizes it wants to form a contract with her before revealing something important. Helga agrees and names the light Amelie. Amelie then guides her to a cage where a female spirit lies unconscious, bound by chains around her arms and neck. Seeing the spirit's body deteriorating, Helga immediately transfers her magic power to stabilize her. Suddenly, the spirit calls Helga by name. Surprised, Helga asks how she knows her. The spirit explains that Helga is a descendant of someone she once knew, bearing a striking resemblance in both appearance and magical power. But as the spirit tries to reveal more, the chains tighten, choking her words. Gasping, she warns Helga to find her in the future, especially when facing a crisis. She promises to tell her everything then. In an instant, Helga returns to reality, only to be met with the concerned faces of those around her. Helga returns home, still wondering about the unexpected event in Utopia and the female spirit's words. Sienna enters her room, asking about the union with Utopia and the toll gate inspection. Helga admits that she plans to reschedule it due to Prince Kadrian's banquet. She also worries about leaving Sienna alone, but Sienna insists she can manage with the maids and urges Helga to prioritize the banquet. Poor Helga, the girl barely had time to recover from her magical escapade. On the day of the event, Sienna helps Helga prepare herself. After Helga dresses up, Sienna openly admires her beauty, teasing her that men in the banquet would truly fall for her. Helga thanks her for her compliment. She then asks if the gift is too heavy, but Sienna assures her that it's fine. Later on, they are surprised when Rohan arrives to pick Helga up. He stares at Helga intently, captivated by her stunning appearance. They soon arrive at the event hall where guests celebrate Prince Noah's birthday. Helga is amazed to see the entire knighthood present, suspecting Rohan planned something special. Delight compliments her, teasing that the grand atmosphere is because of her, making Helga blush. Rohan invites her to dance, and as they move gracefully, some nobles admire them while others gossip about Rohan's relationship with his fiancée. Rohan notices Helga's unease, so he reassures Helga, beckoning her to ignore the whispers and enjoy the moment. The jealous nobles never rest. But Rohan, his eyes are locked on Helga. Helga smiles and compliments Rohan, his whole getup seemingly stunning as well. Playful as ever, Rohan asks if she might fall in love with him again. But to his shock, she confidently answers yes, leaving him completely stunned. Sion overhears Helga's response to Rohan and he immediately feels discouraged, abandoning his plan of asking her for a dance. His days are now filled with work at Solamio and nightly studies to become Duke Sajin's heir. Remembering the Duke's warning not to return without dancing, Sion reluctantly seeks a partner. Delight appears, and Sion invites her to dance while addressing her as Duchess. However, she insists on being called Lady and warns him to be cautious, as even small mistakes can harm his reputation. Sion then asks if she knows he is Duke Sajin's adopted son, and Delight confirms it. She advises him to adapt quickly to the social scene, noting that his friendship with Helga is advantageous, but can also affect reputation. Hearing this, Sion asks for Delight's help in adjusting to society, promising to become a reliable ally for Helga once he fully assumes his role. Acknowledging his determination, Delight agrees to help him, and her way of doing it? Dancing with Sion. Nervous, Sion admits that he barely knows a thing about dancing, but Delight reassures him, promising to guide him. Sion knows this isn't just a waltz, it's a battlefield. After an awkward dance, she jokingly complains to Helga about Sion's poor dancing. Despite this, Helga is grateful, believing it will help Sion's social standing. Later, Delight invites Helga to a hat-making meeting, revealing that the Empress requested her presence. However, Delight reveals the Empress personally requested Helga's attendance, making Helga suspicious of the Empress's motives. Still, Helga agrees to attend and plans to discuss it further at Solamio. Helga is then startled when she spots a young woman who closely resembles her. It's Dahlia, the girl who has been imitating her. It turns out Dahlia, the Earl's cousin, recently moved to the capital. Sheepishly, Delight admits she invited Dahlia due to faction pressure and apologizes if her presence makes Helga uncomfortable. But Helga remains composed, stating she isn't bothered and proceeds to present her gift to Noah. Helga? Unbothered, the queen knows a shadow can never outshine the original. Noah warmly greets Helga, thanking her for attending the banquet. In return, she hands him 2 items, a magic sword that she strengthened with her own power and a truth-telling potion. Surprised and grateful, Noah listens as Helga expresses her hope that the sword will serve him well in the future. Helga advises Noah to be cautious with the magic sword, warning that while it can break through an enemy's strength, it's fragile. She also suggests using the truth-telling potion to uncover Imperial spies, especially with the Vikings' suspicious activities. Noah's delighted reaction confirms how much he loves the gift. After the banquet, Rohan escorts Helga home. She thanks him for the enjoyable day, and in turn, he praises her for the thoughtful gift. But before leaving, Rohan expresses his desire of seeing her the following day. Sir, why are you like this? He's not just escorting her, he's escorting all of us into our feelings. Back home, Sienna reports on the toll gate inspection, but Helga is too distracted to listen. Instead, she asks to borrow Sienna's clothes. The next morning, Helga meets Rohan, surprised to see his hair dyed to match hers. After apologizing for any delay, he suggests they try desserts at a nearby stall. As they try the desserts, Helga admires the vendor's marketing strategy and considers using it in Salamio. The vendor also jokingly calls Helga as Rohan's cute lover. While laughing, Rohan orders a strawberry whipped cream cake and encourages her to pick anything she likes. When she asks if he minds the rumors, Rohan dismisses them, wanting her to enjoy the day like any ordinary couple. Meanwhile, Panion and Dahlia watch from a distance, their expressions veiled with scheming intent. Dahlia's eyes gleam with satisfaction as she smugly claims that Panion's success of having Helga will undoubtedly benefit her. She urges him to stay persistent, convinced that his efforts will yield results that align perfectly with her own ambitions. Someone needs to hand her a mirror because the only chaos she's stirring is in her own downfall. As she contemplates her next move, Dahlia recalls the letter she had sent to Hyllian, eagerly anticipating the chaos it might stir. Little does she know, Wolfgang has already given the letter to Hyllian. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!